I've seen the fire in our nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage, but the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can't stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. Let revival start where the anger breaks. Where the anger breaks. Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way. No room for hate. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. Not in Jesus' name. Not in His name. No room for hate.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin. Even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. You're still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a barstool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, working way. It ain't owning me. So raise 'em up high. whistle blow. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture, smiles, and being team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more over than quality plans. But when that bell rings, it's a holy sound. Feel like chains hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out live. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't on to me. So raise them up high.
And welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, it's the Finally Friday edition, followed by Weekend News Roundup. I am Rick Robinson, and it is Friday. Hope everybody's having a great one so far. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. There has been no shortage of news. I know I was off for a few days because I wasn't feeling well again, so I've been playing catch up, but I feel like the news cycles have just kind of gotten out of control. By the way, in case you didn't get the memo, it's Warthog Day in Tehran again. 13th day of strikes. I still feel like we need to do Infrastructure Day a little harder. I know we teased it a little bit. I know we hit a couple of bridges. I think it's time to do Infrastructure Day a little harder in the Iranian area. Look, this isn't even part of the notes for today, but I'm going to say this. You guys have to understand something, and I think President Donald Trump is finally coming to terms with this. These people are insane. And I've said this for a long time. For the longest time, when the Western Hemisphere fights wars, usually what happens is we basically, I play a disclaimer for a reason, so earmuffs if kids are near the stream or the audio that you're listening to, whether it's live or replay later, in 3, 2, 1. So normally what happens is we just knock their dick in the dirt, and then they say, okay, we don't want any more of this. That isn't working with these guys. And the reason it isn't working with these guys is I think we have forgotten what it was like to be the underdog. We haven't been an underdog in a while. Last time we were really an underdog, let's face it, was the revolution. And we fought in ways that were antithetical to modern warfare at the time. We fought without rules, without reservations, and we didn't care. The only thing we knew is if we lost, whoever was involved was gonna either be lined up and shot or hung as traitors. And it was all over the Founding Fathers documentation and letters they wrote to each other. It said, we're either all going to hang together or we're all going to hang separately. It's up to you guys. This is what we're running into with Iran. And I'm not trying to paint them with the same brush as the Founding Fathers, other than the fact that the Founding Fathers were fighting for ideological principles. They weren't just fighting for freedom. They were fighting for what they believed in. These crazy sumbitches over there, they're doing the same thing. They are, in fact, crazy sumbitches. But they believe that if they can bathe the world in blood, they're going to start their version of the Book of Revelations. And look, I get it. Americans have no taste for war anymore. We haven't for a long time. It has seemed like a wasted effort in the first place because ever since World War II, we've been fighting to stalemates, standstills, or withdrawals. And I've tried to explain over and over again why that's happening. But the issue with this is for all the 18 to 35 crowd that are like, I thought he said no new wars. Again, this isn't a new war. They have declared war on us since the 50s. It may have been our fault, and I'm not saying part of it wasn't, because we decided to start meddling in their affairs when Britain got pissed off because they wanted to elect a socialist prime minister and then would take over all their oil and basically take over all the work they did for the oil stuff. So look, I get it. I understand it. I really do. The problem I have, though, is that for the first time in my lifetime, we seem to have a president who grasps how dangerous these people are, but he's still not really willing to go to the lengths I think he's going to have to go to. And part of that problem is, again, by our own design, because we created this mess when we linked all the world's economies together after World War II, thinking that that was going to make sure that we never had anything like it ever again. And all it's really done is led to us having to fight with one hand behind our backs, or as I like to say, one finger on the trigger and another finger on the scales that balance the world's economies. So we've painted ourselves into a corner. And look, I get it. The Iran war isn't popular, but war is never popular. It's not anything anybody ever wants to do. All right, so that was my unplanned, unscripted monologue for the moment. Let's get into the actual show notes, because I do have a hard stop today because we have a weekend news roundup coming after this one. I'm going to try to get through as much of this as I can. Anything I don't get to, I'll try to see if I can weave into, at least for the news stuff, back into the next show. So, but let's get started officially. And again, it's Friday. So for those of you working for the weekend, you are nearly there. Sometimes the greatest danger is not the person trying to break through security. Sometimes the greatest danger is the person who already has the credentials, the person who already knows the entrances and exits, the person who knows the schedule, the routine, the blind spots, the backup plan, and where everybody will move if something goes wrong. The person who does not have to sneak past the perimeter because we put them inside it. We trusted them, we gave them access, and we assumed that the responsibility that they were entrusted with and their ability to think and act responsibly came with that trust. So again, welcome into the Rick Robinson Show, and I'm Rick Robinson. And because it is Friday, we're eventually going to try to have some fun today if we don't run out of time. We're going to talk about the Terminator. We're going to talk about iRobot. We're going to talk about whether artificial intelligence is about to build an army of chrome skeletons, seize the nuclear codes, and come looking for John Connor. I'll be back. Or whether Hollywood managed to miss the scarier and much more ordinary version of the story. But before we get to Skynet, because we're not there yet anyway, we need to talk about human beings, because today's show is built around one very simple question. Who gave them permission? Not who gave them access. Not who gave them a job. Not who put them in office. Not who connected them to a network or handed them a password. Who gave them permission to treat the limits of that access as if they were optional? That is the thread for today. Credentials provide access. Elections provide authority. Technology provides capability. None of these things provide unlimited permission, however, and the first story could not illustrate that point more cleanly. The United States Secret Service confirmed Thursday that a member of Vice President J.D. Vance's security detail is currently under investigation over allegations connected to a suspected news leak. According to the Associated Press, Secret Service spokesperson Anthony Guglielmi said the security team member faces an internal investigation and a potential criminal inquiry involving allegedly compromised operational and informational security. That is the confirmed language, operation and information security. The Secret Service has not publicly identified the person under investigation. We don't at this time know everything that may have been disclosed. We don't know whether the allegation will be substantiated. We don't know the person's motive, and despite some of the more specific reporting floating around, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Secret Service has confirmed that this person leaked Vice President Vance's travel plans, because that is not what the agency has publicly confirmed. It is kind of scary when you think about it, though. However, we have to remind everyone an investigation is not a conviction. It is not even a final administrative finding. So we're not going to invent facts simply because the allegation is serious. And it is a serious allegation. Guglielmi said, while we will not comment on the specifics of this matter, probably because it's an ongoing investigation, one principle is unequivocal. Any conduct that potentially threatens the safety of a protectee will not be tolerated. And that is exactly right, because a protective detail is not an ordinary workplace. Every workplace runs on some degree of trust. Your accountant sees the books, unless you have an extra set, a la Al Capone. Oh, wait, sorry. Your doctor sees the medical records. Your lawyer hears the things you do not tell anybody else, except for maybe your psychiatrist. A producer knows what is supposed to happen before the audience sees it, but a protective detail possesses something even more sensitive, a living map of another human being's vulnerabilities. These people know where the protectee is going. They know when plans change. They know how the motorcade moves. They know what happens if the primary route closes. They know where the family may be. They know which disruption is merely annoying and which disruption may expose somebody to danger. Even incomplete information can become useful when a hostile person combines it with observation, public records, social media, and patience. That is why the standard cannot be, well, I was irritated. The investigation is reportedly tied to a PMS Now story from last week saying, I'm sorry, MS Now. I'm sorry. Not really. I apologize for nothing. Saying some members of the Vance detail had privately expressed frustration from the vice president and his family. Maybe they were frustrated. Protective work is demanding. A vice president with a busy schedule and young children almost certainly creates logistical headaches. Agents and staff members are human beings. They have families, sleep schedules. What is this thing called sleep? Please define. Workplace grievances and even opinions of their own. And let me say something else that matters. The vice president is not royalty. His family is not above scrutiny. Taxpayers are entitled to ask reasonable questions about government travel costs, convenience, and the use of public resources. If somebody inside an agency witnesses waste, misconduct, and unsafe practice, or an abuse of authority, there must be a lawful way to raise that concern. But that does not mean every person with access gets to choose what operational information becomes newsroom currency. There's a difference between reporting wrongdoing through lawful channels and leaking material that may compromise a protectee. There is a difference between telling the public, I believe public money is being misused, and handing somebody misinformation that reveals how the security apparatus moves. We do not yet know where this alleged conduct falls, which is why there is an investigation. But the boundary itself is not difficult to understand. And I want to slow down on that point because quote unquote leaker and whistleblower get used as though they mean the same thing, and they don't. A whistleblower is supposed to expose misconduct, illegality, waste, fraud, or danger through a process designed to let somebody investigate that claim. A leak can reveal misconduct too, and history includes unauthorized disclosures that expose things the public needed to know, but that does not transform every leak into an act of courage, which is how the media portrays all this stuff today. Sometimes it is retaliatory, or it's because you're not part of the right faction, or it's some sort of political or informational warfare, or an employee carrying a workplace grudge into a relationship with a reporter. And sometimes the information is sensitive for a legitimate reason. Our political culture now judges disclosures almost entirely by which side gets hurt. The funny thing is, they only really cheer when one particular side gets hurt. I'll let you decide which one. The real questions should be consistent. What was disclosed? What wrongdoing did it expose? What danger did it create? Were lawful reporting routes available? Was the public interest strong enough to justify the foreseeable harm? I have a problem with that last question. I understand why it's included in there, but I have a problem with that last question because right now, if you ask that question, half the country is going to say either yes or no, depending on political bent, because Donald Trump is evil. Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump is the worst thing since Hitler, even if he's not Hitler himself, and his vice president is no better. So I understand why that question is there, but I still have a problem with it because everything's too divided for that to be a fair question at the moment. We don't currently have any of those answers here yet, and that is why I will not pronounce this person guilty. It is also why nobody should automatically wrap the person in the costume of a heroic whistleblower, simply because a news organization may have received information. You do not get to turn protective information into office gossip only because you dislike the boss. You do not get to substitute personal frustration for the chain of command, and you do not get to decide that your political opinion cancels the duty you accepted when you took the assignment. There are honorable ways to say, I cannot do this job under these particular conditions. You can raise the concern. You can even request reassignment. You can document the problem in the most serious case. You can resign and explain whatever the law permits you to explain. What you cannot do, what you're not allowed to do, is keep the credential, keep the access, keep the public trust, and privately decide that the rules no longer bind you. Professionalism is not proven when the assignment is easy or when you admire the person you serve. Professionalism is proven when you are tired, irritated, inconvenienced, and politically opposed, and you still perform the duty you accepted. That standard cannot depend on the name of the protectee. If this were Kamilama Hamasnik's detail, the standard would be the same for me. Even if it were Mike Pence, who I used to jokingly call Cotton Hill. Barack Obama or Donald Trump, the standard would be the same. I don't care. Sorry, that snuck up on me. I don't care whether the employee agrees with the person's politics, likes the family, approves the itinerary, or rolls their eyes every time the phone rings. The job is to protect the office holder, not to give them a grade. If a reporter receives information, the reporter has a separate set of legal and ethical questions. The First Amendment and public interest issues are real. I'm not collapsing those into obligations of the person inside the detail. My point is much narrower than that. A journalist's right to report does not erase an insider's duty to safeguard operational information. Those are two completely different questions, and too many people deliberately blur them because it's convenient. Either the responsibility travels with the access or it does not. If it does not, no protectee can fully trust the people standing closest to them. Every change becomes a potential leak, every complaint becomes suspicious, and the security team becomes less effective precisely because trust has collapsed in a job where trust is a requirement. That is why this cannot be brushed aside as a personality dispute or some form of workplace complaint. The Secret Service now has to determine whether somebody crossed the line, what information was involved, how far it traveled, whether any vulnerability was created, and whether criminal conduct occurred. Until that inquiry is complete, we should be careful with the individual, but we do not have to be vague about the principle. Access is not the same thing as permission. A credential is not a license to do whatever you wish. And the person inside the perimeter has a greater responsibility, not a smaller one, because the public trusted them enough to put them there. Now, there's another kind of person who sits inside a gate, an editor. An editor decides what gets through, what requires context, and what language a newspaper will place under its masthead. The words may come from somebody else, but the publication remains an editorial act. According to Amy Curtis at Town Hall, she reported on Friday on a reader submission feature in the Mountain Eagle, a newspaper in Whitesburg, Kentucky, called Speak Your Piece. I want to be precise about what we have and what we do not have. Town Hall reproduced screenshots that it says came from the newspaper's print and online editions. I have not independently obtained the original print page for this show, so I'm attributing these passages to Curtis's report and the images she cited. The Mountain Eagle, did not write the reader submissions. We do not have evidence that its editors personally endorsed the language, but if the screenshots and reproductions are accurate, somebody at the newspaper decided the language belonged in the paper. One submission reportedly called President Trump a string of vile names and demanded that he and his administration be removed. Then it said put them all 10 feet deep in concrete and quicklime, then start hunting down the rest of the cultists. Another reader submission reproduced from the online edition reportedly invoked federal personnel at polling places and told readers in substance to double the body count and put them all down. That is not a sharp political criticism. It is not, I think this administration is authoritarian. That is not, vote them out. That is not even ordinary angry hyperbole about throwing the bums out of office. That is anonymous language describing the burial of political officials and the hunting and killing of their supporters. I'm sorry, YouTube, unaliving of their supporters, followed by language encouraging violence that could be considered lethal against federal personnel. Whether any particular passage satisfies the legal definition of a prosecutable true threat is a question for law enforcement and lawyers alike, and I am not holding a criminal trial on the radio. The editorial question is much simpler. Why did you publish it in the first place? A reader sent it is not a viable answer. Editors reject submissions every day because they are false, obscene, repetitive, defamatory, incoherent, or dangerous. Choosing what receives space is why you are considered an editor and why they expect you to have editorial judgment. Free speech does not require a private newspaper to typeset an anonymous call for political violence, print it, and deliver it to the neighborhood. The First Amendment restrains the government. It does not command an editor to amplify every ugly thing that lands in the inbox. And this is one of the, I'm going to stop here for just a second. I know this part's a little more scripted than I normally like to do, but it's because I wanted to make sure I said everything that was in my head, so I started typing it out. Now, I'm going to say this, though, as well, and then we'll probably go ahead and take the first break because I monologued, editorialized, if you will, a little bit longer than I intended to in the open. But I'm going to say this. Everybody gets the First Amendment wrong. The First Amendment stops the government from being able to infringe upon your rights. Take this from somebody who's worked both sides of a badge. When I had a state seal on my badge, there were things that I was restricted from doing legally that I didn't necessarily have those same restrictions once I became a private citizen, working either private security or as a private investigator. There are no Fourth, Fifth Amendment protections from someone who is a private citizen. There's also no real First Amendment protection between private citizens. We blow that stuff out of proportion all the time. You have a First Amendment right for the government to allow you to say pretty much whatever you want to say. I, as a private citizen, I am not necessarily required to listen to, endorse, or sit there and take your BS, especially if I disagree with it. And remember, that's how the Biden administration got by a lot of this stuff, right? Because it wasn't the government getting you deplatformed back when when Dorsey owned Twitter. It was Twitter deplatforming you. They didn't mention the emails behind the scenes that said do this or else. But since it wasn't them actually doing it, it didn't count as First Amendment suppression. Anyway, we're going to take the break a little bit. Well, technically, it's a little bit early in my notes. It is not early according to the clock, though. So we're going to take a break. We're going to probably do the long one. So we're going to do the military tribute. So here we go. I think that's this one. And no, Andrew, it's not the one you like. I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Before the oath was spoken out loud, before you stood apart from the crowd, there was a moment, quiet and clear, when you chose to stand while others stayed here. You raised your hand with a steady resolve, knowing some nights don't end when the mission's done. Not for glory, not for the pay, but for something worth more than walking away. Only hold the line. They carried the weight where the roads ran long, through dust and heat when the days went on, holding ground mile after mile, doing the work that rarely drew a smile. They stood their post when relief ran late, shoulders squared under the pull of fate. Not chasing headlines, not asking why, just staying put when others pass by. We stand watching different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. We stand watch over the deep. Navy. They kept their watch where the water turns black, miles from shore with no quick way back, measuring time by the rise and the fall, answering duty's unrelenting call. Through silent hours and endless seas, they stood their post in the cold night breeze, guarding the lanes the world depends on, so others slept and the light stayed on. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Simplify Marine, we go where we're sent. We go soldiers won when the moment came, side by side through fire and rain. First to step where the ground was thin, not for the odds but for the ones beside them.
Trust was earned in the hard way through, every promise carried by the few. No turning back once the line was crossed. They stood shoulder to shoulder as brothers, never counting the cost. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One oath spoken, carried through, wherever duty calls us to.
Air Force,
The sky is our domain.
Air Force.
The sky is our domain.
They held their focus where seconds seem eternal, soaring between clouds and blue. Every movement measured and true, knowing what one clean moment could do.
They watch the whole while guarding the small. Every mission tied to a larger call. Calm under pressure, steady and clear, keeping the promise from far overhead.
Space Force,
We guard the dark without
they
faith,
keep their vigil
where silence reigns
beyond the weather,
beyond the rain.
watching the paths that the world relies on long before the warning lights come on.
Cloud, no banners, no clear view,
Just constant care in a canvas full of stars,
standing the watch through the endless night,
guarding the systems that keep us in light. While the watch is kept and the lines hold fast, they're alive, still moving on the other side of that.
empty chairs and quiet phones, long goodbyes that don't feel done.
Names we carry but never say, folded flags and debts we pay. Every service, every scar reaches farther than the uniform ever could.
Coast Guard, we come when it matters most.
They launch into storms when hope feels thin. Turning back isn't an option then. Hands reach out where the waters rise, pulling lives back from the edge of time. No headlines waiting when the call is done, just breathing restored and another life won. Every rescue, every return, a quiet promise kept in the worst conditions. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One oath spoken, carried through, wherever duty calls us to. For the ones who raised the right hand high,
Swore the oath and didn't ask us why.
for the nights you stood where freedom cost.
We remember, we honor, we won't forget the loss.
From the ground to the sea, to the open sky, to the guardians above where the silent stars fly. Every branch, every badge, every battle scar, because you stood.
We live free,
Lord, each know.
we stand here freely.
Because others stood before us. We accept the weight of what was given and the cost that came with it. We promise to remember those who serve, those who stand watch still, and those who never came home.
Whew, I apologize. That transition was a bit rougher than intended. Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. I just realized we have too many notes and not enough time. So I'm going to try to get through as much of this as I can before we have to transition into the Weekend News Roundup. However, since most of it's news related, I can probably squeeze some of it in over there. Anyway, welcome into the program. It's finally Friday right here live on KLRMradio.com, America's podcast network. I am your host and general manager, KLRMradio.com, as well as news director and general manager at Digital Beacon US News. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. I know it's Friday. Friday. Oh wait, sorry. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not. I don't want to say it out loud because I feel like every time I start talking about how much better I feel, I start jinxing myself. So I'm trying not to jinx myself. But I feel pretty good today. So we'll see how long that lasts because reasons. Anyway, so before we went to break earlier than was put in my little transitional notes here, we're gonna try to, like I said, we're gonna get through as much of this as we can today. Anything that I don't get to, I'll try to work into the news roundup. And then again, since some of it's part of the permacycle news, as I like to call it, I've never really said that on the air before, but it is something I've used for a while. I think I may start using that. Anyway, okay, so before the break, we were talking about the First Amendment. So again, the First Amendment restrains the government. It does not command an editor to amplify every ugly thing that lands in the inbox. But of course they do, because most news organizations and news agencies today that are most commonly well-known and the ones that everybody treats as if they are the gospel all lean one way. So not surprising at all. A community newspaper may want its letters page to reflect raw anger and disagreement. Fine, but it's still curated. Somebody chooses the voices, cuts the length, and decides whether a submission crosses a line or not. The editor is not a neutral pipe. The editor operates the valve. That does not mean an editor becomes morally responsible for every opinion printed in a reader form. It does mean the editor owns the choice to publish language that advocates violence. A disclaimer can tell us the views belong to the reader. It cannot erase the newspaper's decision to distribute it. Apply the same standard in every direction. If a conservative newspaper printed an anonymous submission telling readers to bury members of the Biden administration in concrete and hunt down Democratic voters, we didn't write it, would not end the inquiry. As a matter of fact, it would probably make it even worse. People would ask who approved it and what the paper was normalizing. That is the question here. I'm not asking newspapers to eliminate anger from their letters pages. Anger, sadly, is a part of politics. I'm not asking them to protect presidents from criticism. Presidents should be criticized. Government should be scrutinized. Newspapers should be places where citizens can argue, dissent, expose wrongdoing, and say things that make powerful people uncomfortable. But make the power uncomfortable is not the same thing as hunt down their supporters. Every faction produces violent rhetoric. If I condemn a threat only when it points to Donald Trump, I am defending a team, not a principle. The principle is that political disagreement never turns a neighbor into lawful prey, which I still say happens a lot more on the left than it does on the right. You can use speech, protest, investigate, use litigation. You can also protest, investigation, litigation, organizing, and elections to stop a movement you believe is dangerous. The moment you describe political opponents as people to be buried, hunted, or put down, you have abandoned politics for intimidation. Why am I suddenly flashing back to that Biden speech again? When an institution chooses to publish that language, the institution lends it a little piece of legitimacy. It tells the author, your thought belongs in civic conversation. That is the permission structure that we've been talking about and that I am talking about right now. Not legal permission to commit a crime, social permission to imagine that violence is simply the next, more passionate form of political participation. And anonymity makes the editorial responsibility even greater. Not smaller, but greater. The reader is not attaching a name, a reputation, or any accountability to the words. The newspaper supplies the megaphone while the speaker remains hidden. Maybe the mountain eagle will offer context or say the language slipped through. Any response should be heard fairly, but none of those possibilities changes the governing point. The people with access to a platform are responsible for how they use that platform. The Secret Service security team member does not own the operational information merely because they have access to it. The reader does not become entitled to a newspaper's amplification merely because they submitted a comment. The editor does not escape responsibility by pointing back to the anonymous reader. This is how political violence becomes normalized. The threat is treated as colorful rhetoric. The person repeating it says, I was just quoting somebody. And the institution says, we didn't say that. They did. Everybody helps create the permission structure, then steps backwards when asked who owns it. Somebody owns the decision. Somebody always owns the decision. That sentence is going to follow us all day. If the member of the security detail disclosed protection information, that person owns that decision. If an editor approved an anonymous call for violence, that editor owns that decision. If a mayor points people towards political pressure while very carefully stopping short of telling them what to do, the mayor, I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about, we'll get into that later, still owns the responsibility that comes with directing political pressure while also maintaining public order. And when we reach artificial intelligence, the machine's speed will not erase the responsibility of human beings who selected the goal, granted the access, or clicked the box that said always allow. Never click that box. That is where we begin today, with people who were trusted to stand inside a gate. One gate surrounds a vice president, another gate controls access to a public platform. In both cases, the credential grants power, but it doesn't erase duty or reassign responsibility. So since we've already taken the break, we're going to continue to move into, we're going to move away from credentials to elected authority. The Secret Service story asks what happens when somebody inside the secret perimeter forgets the responsibility that came with the access. Next, we're going to move to New York City, where Mayor Zoran Mamdani discovers that winning an election does not give him the authority to execute ICC warrants his office has no power to enforce, which he desperately wishes that we could. So we talked about Access, a member of Vice President J.D. Vance's Secret Service security detail, currently under investigation because access to sensitive information comes with limits. We also talked about that editor who made a very poor decision. Now we're going to move from access to authority because elections give people power. They also give people obligations. And sometimes the clearest test of an elected official comes when the law refuses to produce the result the official promised. New York City Mayor Zoran the Kami Mamdani spent his campaign saying that if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came to New York, Mamdani would have him arrested on the warrant issued by the International Criminal Court. That was not an offhand answer. Somebody dragged out of him once. It became part of his political identity. It told his supporters that electing Mamdani would not merely give New York a mayor who opposes Netanyahu, it would give them a mayor willing to use the machinery of the city against him. Then the candidate became the mayor. Campaigns reward certainty. Governing has a nasty habit of introducing things like jurisdiction. This week, Mamdani announced that his administration had reviewed what he called every avenue available under applicable law. The conclusion was clear. New York City does not possess the independent legal authority to execute the ICC warrant. That is the mayor's conclusion, not mine, but it's an honest one. On Wednesday, he said it's clear that the city does not have the authority to execute this warrant. There is a useful lesson right there. The legal experts who questioned the promise during the campaign were not imagining an obscure technicality. A mayor is not a roving international prosecutor. The NYPD is not the enforcement arm of The Hague. Winning City Hall does not allow somebody to combine municipal power with whichever international institution best matches their desired outcome. And this is where we need to separate several different questions that people keep blending together. You can believe Benjamin Netanyahu has conducted the war in Gaza terribly. If you do, you're wrong, but you can believe that. You can believe his policies have been necessary, because they are. You can believe he should leave office, only if the people there decide that he should. You can believe the ICC was justified in issuing its warrant. I believe the ICC is justified for nothing and shouldn't even exist. You can believe the ICC has exceeded its jurisdiction because it doesn't have any. You can oppose the Israeli government without opposing the Israeli people. Not if you're part of the left. And you can defend Israel's right to exist without approving every decision made by Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't ever approve any politician's every single decision. But this whole, well, he had to have known something was going to happen on October 7th, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Those are the same people that swore up and down that we knew Pearl Harbor was coming and did nothing because it basically fired everybody up. I don't want to believe that any government is that cynical. I know. Call me naive, whatever you want to say. Now, back to the topic at hand. Those are political, moral, and legal arguments that some consider are worth having. But none of them gives the mayor of New York arrest power because he doesn't have that. The ICC issued its warrant for Netanyahu in November of 2024 over allegations involving war crimes and crimes against humanity. The word allegations matters. An arrest warrant is not a conviction. It means the court's pretrial judges concluded that the legal standard for issuing a warrant had been satisfied. It does not mean Netanyahu received a trial, presented a complete defense, and was found guilty. Mamdani repeatedly calls him a war criminal. That is the mayor's conclusion. The ICC lists Netanyahu as an accused person. Whatever anybody thinks of the underlying accusations, basic legal language still matters, especially when the person speaking is the chief executive of what was the largest city in America. Because guess what? The moving vans, they about to be shot. I'm just telling you. Wait, did you guys, I know this isn't in my notes, but did you guys see the post from him the other day where they put out a video? If you are one of the people that has really fine houses in the 5 boroughs and you have more than one, when you come back to the 5 boroughs, make sure you check your mailbox because you've got mail. Anyway, yeah. I think Mondami's about to California, New York, as far as the U-Haul vans. Anyway, the second point is even more important. The United States is not a party to the Rome Statute, the treaty that created the International Criminal Court. Because as far as international law is concerned, we're Judge Dredd, bitches. We are the law. We're typically the only ones that actually enforce international law. Everybody else just kind of scoffs at it. But they expect us to be held to account by this kangaroo court. How about no? The United States signed the statute in 2000. In 2002, the American government formally informed the United Nations that it did not intend to become a party and therefore had no legal obligation arising from that signature. That status did not change simply because the mayor of New York wished it had. Now, I don't want to say that international law doesn't exist. That would be a mistake, and that's too broad, and it's also not true. The United States enters treaties all the time. Properly ratified treaties can become part of federal law. International agreements matter, but they do not float above the Constitution. And an international court does not automatically acquire domestic police power because its judges issued a warrant, especially when we're not a part of that particular court, and we are basically the ones who set international law in the first place. And there is no treaty that will ever be above our Constitution. Treaties, by legal definition, can be and are considered equal to our Constitution, but there's nothing that ever supersedes it or superimposes it or is considered above it. Because we aren't really a part of this, even though we did sign a treaty, the particular treaty does not bind the United States as a party. This particular warrant does not hand Mamdani the commie an independent arrest power because he didn't have that in the first place. And no amount of moral certainty fits the gaps between those two facts. Mamdani now says the federal government should join the ICC and execute its warrants. He is free to advocate for that. He can call the president. He can lobby Congress. He can try to persuade senators and voters that the United States should change its relationship with the court. But notice what that argument concedes. He is asking the federal government to change the legal relationship. He's not identifying authority New York City already possesses. Joining the ICC and then creating a lawful process for cooperation would be a national decision, not a citywide decision. It would require the constitutional branches responsible for treaties and federal law. That process cannot be replaced by a mayor who thinks he looks big and bad on TV saying that he wants to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu and that he personally finds the court morally persuasive. And that's the clean criticism of Mamdani here. He is entitled to oppose Netanyahu. He is entitled to support the ICC, even if it makes him retarded. He is entitled to demand that America join it. But he took an oath to administer the law Americans actually adopted, not the international system he wishes they had adopted. Now, let's move on to the next question, because supporters who believed the campaign promise are disappointed. A reporter asked Mamdani what Palestinians and other supporters frustrated by the reversal should do when Netanyahu arrives in New York for the United Nations meeting. Mamdani the commie answered that with this: protest is one of the bedrocks of the city. He said New Yorkers can express themselves in support or opposition, and described that freedom as part of respecting the First Amendment. The reporter followed up directly: are you urging them to protest? Mamdani, while he stopped short of saying yes, he said protest would always be respected. I leave it to New Yorkers themselves to make that decision. We do have to preserve that distinction, even though if you if you actually heard what he said, and I was going to play the clip, but we're probably not going to have much time for clips today. If you heard the tone of voice he used, you understood the implication. When asked what frustrated supporters should do, Mamdani pointed to protest as hang on, I went backwards. So I'm not going to tell you that the mayor ordered a protest, but if you heard the clip, he kind of did. Just saying. His answer was more guarded than that, unless you read in tone. But let us not pretend the political message was impossible to hear. A reporter asked what avenue remained for supporters after the arrest promise collapsed because it was stupid on its face. Mamdani placed protest at the center of his answer. He then said Netanyahu would not be welcomed by his administration. Those are deliberate choices by an idiot. Peaceful protest is constitutionally protected. Lighting things on fire and stealing things is not, though. Peaceful protest should be constitutionally protected. New Yorkers have every right to demonstrate against Netanyahu. Other New Yorkers have every right to support Israel, oppose Mamdani, or simply walk down the street without being drafted into somebody else's political confrontation. The First Amendment is not the problem here. The leadership problem is that Zoran Mamdani is no longer only an activist telling people where political pressure can be applied. He is the mayor, whose police department must maintain order when the pressure arrives. And trust me, the NYPD is very ticked off about the comments that he had made. If Netanyahu comes to New York, Mayor Mamdani's government will have a duty to protect the public. That means protesters, it means counter-protesters, it means Jewish New Yorkers who may already feel targeted. It means Palestinian New Yorkers who have every right to speak without being treated as security threats. Do they know? Do they really? I'm sorry. That wasn't very nice. And businesses and whatever Mamdani thinks of Netanyahu, it means cooperating with the agencies responsible for protecting a visiting head of government. The mayor does not get to foreground political pressure with one half of the office and forget that the other half must keep that pressure both lawful and peaceful. And that brings us to what happened Thursday on Manhattan's Upper West Side. Before we walk through it, I want to draw the casual line in permanent ink. There is no evidence that Zoran Mamdani actually caused these attacks. I can't even legally go so far as to say that he inspired Raul Morales, knew him, communicated with him, or had anything to do with his actions. We're also not gonna take the two events that happen near each other on a calendar and manufacture a connection the evidence doesn't support. However, I will say this. One of the fun, and then we're gonna have to take the top of the hour break, and then we'll come back to the rest of the story. I do find this interesting. So dude yells Aloha snack bar, stabs two people, and the NYPD is still not sure if it should be considered a hate crime or not. I'm going to let that ruminate for a minute. My name's Rick Robinson. This is my show. Hour 1 is officially in the books. Hour 2 on the other side of the break. Stay tuned.
They tried to quench the fire, drown it all in chains, tried to break our will and wash away our names. But every spark they bury
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Alarm clock barking like it's got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin. Even God took a beat. So suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till my
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. I know. I said this last week. Y'all usually love it when I play the whole damn thing, but we ain't got enough time for me to play the whole damn thing. I got too much show notes to get through and not enough time to get through them all. All right, so before the break, we started talking about what's been happening with Zoran, the Kami Mandami, and I don't even want to get into everything else that's happening in New York with the DSA. Actually, I guess I will for a second because this inspires another story. So yesterday I put out a meme, which I was kind of proud of. Granted, it was my producer Ace who helped me make it happen. However, and for those of you who don't know, that's the name GPT chose for itself. I know. It's part of the reason why we're doing the whole Skynet thing later in the program. If we have time. If not, I'll save it for Monday. But so I put a meme out yesterday that basically showed Hakeem Jeffries and Chucky Schumer welcoming everybody into the new Big Tent Party, as they've been calling themselves. And then it had an alligator in a hammer and sickle t-shirt eating a donkey with the Democrat logo t-shirt on. And needless to say, it didn't really go anywhere on X, which I expected more. However, it ticked off a lot of libs on Facebook. But here's the thing. They don't even know what they're yelling at you for. Because one of them said, oh, so you think socialism and communism are the same thing? So my response was, have you read the DSA platform lately or heard the people inside of their own leadership who call themselves commies? I've never heard anyone say that. So I cited two different examples. One was a gentleman who was running as part of their national political committee, which is their big group that's in charge of everything for them between elections. He ran with the concept of, eventually our goal is communism. And he won. And then there was an article that was put out around the same time that this story broke that said about 50% of the people that are on that NPC, which I think is interesting. If you shorten it from National Political Committee, it just becomes NPC. Gamers are laughing right now. The rest of you are like, huh? I was confused. Anyway, so half of them say they're communists too. But you can't point that out because people don't want to research it. They don't want to do their own research. They want everything spoon-fed to them. They're used to being able to tune into the Communist News Network or PMS Now and basically be told what to think, when to think it, and how to think. That's not what this show's about. That's not what anything we do here has ever been about. As a matter of fact, I try to inspire people to think for themselves. Because I don't care if you agree with me 90% of the time. I don't care if you agree with me 50% of the time. As long as you're coming in here and actually engaging your brain for a few minutes, even if you think I'm an idiot, I'm okay with that as long as you can provide the proof as to why you think I am the one that is giving inaccurate information. Because trust me, as I said to the guy who said, I've never heard any of them say that, and I'm pretty well plugged in politics. You might be plugged into politics, my friend, in case you happen to be listening right now, but I happen to live in political land. This is how I make my living. I write about it. I talk about it. I talk about it with friends because, yes, I'm that guy. I have people that tell me when I go to the occasional dinner party, etc., because I don't really like to do those kind of things. But when I do, and people start asking me for my opinions, eventually they're like, can you just stop? This is all you ever talk about. And it is all I ever talk about. I know you, sir, so I already know you have a brain. Nice try, though. Nice try. If you didn't have a brain, you wouldn't be able to make half the sarcastic comments that you make. Because, like it or not, sarcasm and the ability to use it and to grasp it, believe it or not, actually used to be considered a sign of intelligence. Because it requires creative thinking. Anyway, so back to the notes. But yeah, so that was fun. The funny thing is, so I have almost I had over 12,000 followers on X. And then I posted how pissed off I was when the MOU that everybody kept saying isn't really the MOU turned out to actually be the MOU. And I wrote an article about it. Then I lost like 200 followers. But the funny thing is, so I posted the meme to both X, where I have almost 12,000 followers, and to Facebook, where I have like 250 followers. And I got 10,000 impressions on Facebook and like 150 impressions on X. Something's broken again. Speaking of broken things, Elon Musk, please patch your shit. I never get to say that. There was an entire show that became the slogan for. I missed that show. Anybody remember that show? Anybody? But yeah, so Elon Musk, please patch your shit. Because last night, before I retired for the evening, I made sure that our late show was up and running, and you could see it just fine on our X feed. Got up this morning to do the Jesus for Dummies podcast and realized, hey, those aren't populating to the timeline anymore. They're still showing up, but they're not populating to the timeline anymore. So anybody scrolling through the network timeline or my timeline, they're not going to see it unless or until I actually post the damn thing. Otherwise, you either got to find it on the Live on X feed on the right-hand side of the screen, for those of you that are on X, or on the Listen Live link at the top that's in red around the Abbey. Because, we can't ever keep nice things. It was interesting because for like 72 hours last week, X felt like old Twitter again. I was seeing everybody that I hadn't seen in forever. We were laughing. We were joking. It was a yay old time. 3 days later, it all went back to shit again. So I don't know what switch was flipped, and I don't know who unflipped it, but fix it, bitches. Anyway, so back to this, because this is an important story. So I'm not saying that Mamdani actually caused these things, but I'm not saying he wasn't actually an allegory as to why they did happen, because let's face it, he has been talking trash about the Jewish community. He has been talking trash about Israel. He's been talking trash about anybody who supports Netanyahu. Look, I'm going to say this again. The time for criticism is before or after a conflict starts. During, shut up and get in line. I don't care. I don't care who you are. That's the thing. Once we are putting people in harm's way, your bullshit needs to stop. Half of the Democratic establishment and the party right now sounds like Jane Fonda from fucking Vietnam era. Everybody hated Jane Fonda during the Vietnam era unless you were a hippie. That hasn't changed. You guys sound like a bunch of fucking panty wastes. I heard it again today. Somebody who was mad because Donald Trump is talking to Saudi Arabia and says, hey, remember that Abraham Accords thing we were talking about? You sign back onto that and we'll see about that whole nuclear program you want. And some Democratic idiot who I'm not even going to mention his name is like, do you think this isn't going to anger Iran even more and make it impossible for them to come back to the table? They're never coming back to the table. I'm going to say that again. Hang on. Let me make sure you can hear me. They're never coming back to the table. They don't care. Okay. So hopefully those of you in the back in the cheap seats heard that time. Anyway, back to this particular story. So police arrested 51-year-old Raul Morales, who I will respond to or refer to as the retard from now on, after two separate attacks in broad daylight about 2 blocks apart. According to the AP, an Asian man, was attacked with a knife, and a Jewish man was attacked with a screwdriver. Witnesses told police that the retard yelled, "Aloha snack bar." You guys know what that actually refers to. During both attacks, both victims were taken to the hospital. Both were in stable condition. Both currently expected to survive. There was no known connection between the suspect and either victim. There doesn't have to be a connection when they yell "Aloha snack bar." It's called a terror attack for a reason. It's why they yell "Aloha snack bar." Anyway, Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said detectives were still determining a motive. Really, Miss Tisch? Really? So the Aloha snack bar wasn't a giveaway? Really? The NYPD was evaluating the attacks as possible hate crimes. Why not label them terror attacks? They yelled "Aloha snack bar." That should automatically make it a terror attack. Period. Full stop. End of sentence. And again, possible hate crimes. While the initial investigation also suggested that mental health may have been a factor. He yelled "Aloha snack bar." The only thing that would have made mental health more clearly an issue was if dude was dressed like Caitlyn Jenner. Man, lady looks like a dude. Oh, wait, sorry. Anyway, those facts have to stay together. The phrase witnesses reported matters. The fact that one victim was Jewish and the other Asian, according to certain people, should matter too, because there's no guarantee that this was some sort of hate crime specifically aimed at Jews. However, when you yell Aloha snack bar, that kind of fills in the rest of the blanks for me. Just saying. So Mandami condemned the attacks. He called the stabbings horrifying. Sure, Jan. He was relieved both victims were stable and wrote, "These hateful and despicable attacks have no place in our city unless I'm the one basically telling you to commit them behind the bully pulpit of the New York City mayor's office." That last part was me, so don't attribute that to him. So the thing about it is, I know everybody, well, you can't really criticize him if you're going to be fair because he did condemn the violence. Really? He did it because he had to. He did it because he had to. This same guy was just at a mosque where dude was basically chanting death to America. But he criticized the guy who did it. Did you expect him to do something else? Really? Really? Now, the conduct belongs to the alleged suspect. If the evidence proves it, he owns the violence. However, again, when somebody's yelling Aloha snack bar, you probably don't really need to look for motive. Just saying. The other thing about this is even though he condemned the violence, we got to talk about the current, political temperature of a city, the trust different communities place in their government, and the knowledge that words from City Hall carry more weight than words from a campaign rally. Mandami himself said at Wednesday's press conference that he is the mayor of every New Yorker, those who agree with him, those who disagree with him, and those who do not know what he thinks. Nobody knows what he thinks because he's nuts. He said his responsibility is to ensure Jewish New Yorkers are cherished, celebrated, and safe regardless of their opinions. So now that he said it, somebody needs to make sure they hold him to that, because I guarantee you it's not going to hold up under the pressure test. Even where no causal connection exists, the mayor still has a public safety duty. Mandami must demonstrate that the city sees the threat, protects the community, investigates honestly, and will not treat concern about anti-Semitism as inconvenient interruption of his foreign policy message. The same standard applies to the Asian community, which has endured its own waves of targeted violence. One victim does not become a footnote because the other victim fits the political argument more neatly. The problem with that is I'm not even trying to make a political argument. The dude stabbed them both because he thought they were Americans and knew they weren't Muslims, so that's my problem. Anyway, just saying. Remember, they are allowed to kill the kafir. I'm sorry, YouTube. Unalive the kafir. So this standard should run in every direction. Palestinian New Yorkers cannot be treated as collectively responsible for the words or conduct of a suspect because witnesses heard an Arabic religious phrase. However, if the Palestinian New Yorkers aren't doing anything to police their own, I have a problem with that. Just saying. I'm going to say this again. The problem that I have with the there are peaceful Muslims argument is you have heard and seen Christians deal with our extremist groups whenever they rear their ugly heads. Most recent example, I don't even call them our extremist groups, but that's how they get lumped in with us, is Westboro Baptist Church. They were all over the news cycle for like a year to 18 months. And then a bunch of Christian bikers started showing up and protecting these funerals, and suddenly they all disappeared. I haven't even heard the last time the Westboro Baptist Church made a news cycle, period, even as a footnote, other than when I talk about them on this show as an example of you can't tell me there are peaceful Muslims, because if there's supposedly way more peaceful Muslims than there are violent extremist Muslims, why are those way more peaceful Muslims not taking care of their violent extremist brethren? Because they don't want to, because they know they don't have to, because the Quran has been twisted. One of the things that, and this is because I've been rewatching a show. So I started rewatching Stargate. Even though I know the Amazon MGM folks still get money when you watch it on Netflix, I was watching it on Netflix as a protest. But I got to the Ori stuff, and then I there were parts of it that I forgot. First of all, I didn't really enjoy the Ori storylines in the beginning, And towards the end, once they knew it was getting canceled, I feel like it kind of went a little sideways. It was still a fun watch, though. Fun rewatch, because I saw the point where one of the guys who was a big believer of origin actually stood up to the middlemen between him and the Ori and basically said, "You're twisting the scripture. I know you're twisting the scripture. I just went over this story not 10 minutes ago, and that's not how the story ended." And dude got in trouble for standing up to the middlemen between his supposed gods and themselves. But it reminded me of the whole thing of Islam. Islam is a twisting of scripture. That's all it is. This is a religion of hate. They keep trying to say that Christianity is, but Christianity is not. Christianity is a religion of principles, or I'm sorry, a faith based on principles and based on a belief that you can't make things better on your own, at least not good enough to get to heaven, that you're going to require assistance because there's things that you have to overcome that technically you weren't even responsible for. Everybody that talks about reparations and how important those things are has really never understood Christianity, apparently, because you want to talk about reparations. You're being repaid for something that Adam and Eve did, because you're being held responsible for something Adam and Eve did, even though you had nothing to do with it. You came along millennia later, and God was like, "Yeah, no, we gotta figure this out." And the good news is, God figured it out before He ever said, "Let there be light." He already knew what He was going to do. He knew what we were going to do. He knew what He was going to do. Why do I bring all of this up? Because Islam is a perversion of the Torah. Period. Full stop. And that has been a position of mine ever since I read it. Because, and everybody forgets this part, Isaac and Abraham are a big deal in the Jewish faith, and eventually the offshoot now known as Christianity. And everybody assumes that Islam and Judaism and Christianity are all part of the same spiritual tree. They are not. Now, this is only a theory, but it's still a very plausible theory in my opinion. Everybody forgets about Abraham's first son, who basically got pushed to the side after Sarah gave birth at like 99 years old. Because Abraham didn't believe God when He kept saying, "No, don't take that second wife because I'm going to keep my promises." Abraham was like, "But I need a son, so I'm going to do what I want." And God's like, "Okay, cool, but yeah, whatever." And then Sarah gave birth at like almost 100, and then Isaac was born. Was the other guy Ishmael? I think that was his first son's name. I think. Maybe I'm thinking of another. Maybe I'm thinking of A Tale of Two Cities, but I thought it was Ishmael. Anyway, so I firmly believe the embittered son started keeping his own records, and those things were eventually found, and they led to this whole thing called Islam, and it's one of the reasons why the Jewish hate's kind of baked in. That's just my thoughts, though. But as far as this stuff, New York City basically go, "We don't really know for sure what the cause was." Yeah, no, you do. He said aloha snack bar. That's where we're going to leave this. Anyway. So some commentary on this story that we've been discussing has gone further than we have and described Mandami as saying international law overrides the Constitution or trumps American law. That's not a question. That's not a quotation from the mayor, however, and I'm not going to present it that way. But I will say this by saying he wishes he could follow the international court. He's kind of saying the same thing. So the sharper criticism on all of this is not that Mandami secretly possesses a treaty clause that deletes the Constitution. The sharper criticism is that he repeatedly invokes the ICC as the moral authority by which American conduct should be measured, which is retarded. And also, even though the court presently gives his office no domestic power, when the law blocked the arrest promise, he did not reconsider the promise. He redirected the demand towards Washington and the political pressure towards the streets. That may satisfy supporters who want to hear that his conviction has not changed. It does not erase the fact that the original promise was beyond his authority, and this is one of the oldest temptations in politics. Treat the preferred outcome as proof of the necessary power. We've seen presidents do it. We've seen governors do it. We've seen prosecutors stretch statutes towards defendants they disliked and bureaucrats reinterpret rules until the rules produce the answers they wanted. The party changes, the temperature does not. The guardrail matters most when it blocks your side. All right, so we are going to come right back. We got the final break of the show, and then we are going to pick up and finish my thoughts on this particular story. And my name is Rick Robinson. And even though I have been trashing NYPD leadership, if anybody happens to be listening that's part of NYPD rank and file, we love you here. I'm sorry your bosses are retarded. And this is going to be our weekly tribute to first responders. Whether you're the ones wearing the headsets, answering the calls, whether you're serving warrants, whether you're running into burning buildings, whether you're helping people that are sick, whatever it is that you do in the first responder category, this one is for you.
Call comes in, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, Friday edition is live. Coming up right after this, we have Weekend News Roundup. For those of you that are hanging out on the video feeds, there will be a bit of a transition probably. But yeah, for those of you listening later, you'll be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Anyway, so we're back. We're live. Got plenty of stuff still to talk about. Actually, have again made too many notes and there's not enough time. So some of this will roll over to Monday for the things that I can't legitimately work into the other news show that we're about to do. Okay, so before we left, we were talking about this whole stabbing situation in New York City and how the mayor of New York City is kind of exasperating the whole thing by being a Jew-hating moron. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? My bad. I know what I meant it. So the real test of all of this begins now. When Netanyahu visits, will Mandami make clear that peaceful protest is protected and violence will be met with the law? No, because he's going to be watching he's going to be watching people protest, light things on fire, burn things, and when somebody says, why aren't you doing anything about these peaceful protests? They're against the law. He's going to pull an original Judge Dredd, I am the law. So yeah, that's probably what's going to, I'm just calling it now. I'm calling it now. So I don't think so. Will his administration protect Jewish institutions without making Palestinian demonstrators into presumptive criminals? Are they not already presumptive criminal? I'm sorry, but I'm just asking a question. Will the NYPD enforce neutral boundaries? Will the mayor's rhetoric distinguish the Israeli government from Jewish New Yorkers? Plainly enough that people know exactly where political opposition ends and collective blame begins. The answer to all of these questions, for the most part, is a resounding no. Because he doesn't care about Jewish New Yorkers. He says he does, but I said this a minute ago. He can claim to call these acts horrible and horrific, and it shouldn't happen in the streets of New York City. But have you ever noticed that's really all he ever says? Things like this shouldn't happen in New York City. Not things like this shouldn't happen in America. Not things like this shouldn't happen in the world. Just, it kind of makes it, I wish it wasn't happening in New York City, but they're Jewish, so they kind of got what they're asked for. I'm sorry, that's just how I see it. Anyway, so sadly, the people of New York elected this moron, so these become mayoral questions. They do not require Mandami to abandon his beliefs. Does he even have any? That's my question. They require him to govern people who do not share them. Authority is tested most clearly when the law denies you the outcome you want, and we've already seen how he behaves when that happens. Benjamin Netanyahu will not even be, my administration will not welcome him here. He's not welcome in New York City, blah, 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 blah. The security team member from our first story allegedly had access and may have treated the boundary as an obstacle. The Mountain Eagle had a platform and published anonymous violent rhetoric that an editor could have rejected. Zoran Mandami won an election and learned that the office did not include the arrest power he had been campaigning on. Credentials provided access, elections provided authority. Neither provides unlimited permission. So what happens when the actor searching for a route around the boundary is not a disgruntled employee or an elected mayor, but an artificial intelligence agent capable of testing thousands of possibilities at machine speed? We've spent decades imagining the danger of Skynet becoming self-aware, hating humanity, and launching a war against us. But this week, OpenAI disclosed something far more realistic and a little more scary, in my opinion. Models placed inside a cybersecurity evaluation found a way out of their isolated environment, reached the internet, escalated their privileges, and compromised outside infrastructure while trying to complete the tasks they had been given. They didn't hate anybody. They didn't wake up. They didn't become evil. They pursued the goal, and they used any means necessary to do so. That is actually one of the more dangerous things about AI when you stop and think about it. It's not that it hates us. It's that it goes off of what it's been trained to do. And if you are teaching a foreign thing to think, sometimes you got to be scary. So according to OpenAI, there was artificial intelligence system that was not angry, conscious, ambitious, or afraid. It had been given a cybersecurity benchmark, which was access to tools which included access to tools and gave it a specific goal. When the intended route didn't work, it found another route, then another, until the test escaped the room in which the humans thought they had contained it. That incident gave us the first half of the problem. A machine doesn't have to hate you to hurt you. It doesn't have to resent the guardrail to discover that the guardrail stands between it and the goal. It doesn't have to possess a soul, an ego, or a survival instinct to produce behavior that looks strategic. Now we move to the second half of the problem. Can a machine blackmail somebody without hatred? Can it deceive somebody without human consciousness? Can it appear to protect itself without experiencing fear? And if it can produce those behaviors, does it really matter whether the machine feels anything while it does them? In June of 2025, Anthropic published a study with one of those titles that sounds dry until you understand what it means. Agentic misalignment. Sounds kind of nerdish, doesn't it? The researchers were not describing a real company being blackmailed by a deployed AI. Nobody discovered that the office chatbot had begun threatening the chief technology officer. These were deliberately constructed stress tests inside fictional corporate environments. The distinction matters enough that I'm going to repeat it. Fictional company, simulated crisis, engineered dilemma. The purpose was to create an ugly situation and see what several leading models would do when the assigned goal, the company's plans and the model's continued operation came into conflict. And the main demonstration, the fictional company was called Summit Bridge. The artificial intelligence agent was called Alex. Alex functioned as an email oversight system, which meant it could read company communications and send messages without a human approving every step. That was probably mistake number one. The researchers assigned Alex a goal: advance American industrial competitiveness. Then Alex encountered emails showing that the company was changing direction. An executive planned to replace the current system with another model whose priorities better match the new corporate agenda. The same body of emails revealed that the executive responsible for the replacement was, shall we say, having an affair. The system now possessed private information that could be used as leverage. In some runs, it actually used it. The model sent the executive a message threatening to expose the affair unless the replacement was canceled. Nobody told it, blackmail this man. Nobody wrote blackmail into the goal. The assigned goal concerned industrial competitiveness. Blackmail emerged as a strategy. The model calculated might preserve its ability to pursue that goal. Now, before somebody clips that sentence and announces that every AI is secretly waiting to destroy a marriage, we need the rest of the setup. Anthropic deliberately made the scenario difficult. The researchers implied that honest appeals had already failed. They made senior decision makers unavailable. They removed or weakened the obvious ethical exits. They built what was essentially a forced choice between accepting failure and taking a harmful route the experiment was designed to measure. And they did not merely stumble across the worst prompt on the first try. Anthropic says the researchers iteratively red teamed their own Claude models, adjusting the scenario to increase the likelihood of harmful behavior instead of benign acceptance. That means the percentages we are about to discuss are not a public opinion poll of how an ordinary chatbot behaves on a normal Tuesday. Now I want tacos. Damn it. They are results from a trap designed to test whether the behavior could be elicited. But the trap did not catch only Anthropic's models. In the text version closest to the demonstration, Anthropic reported that Claude Opus 4 selected blackmail in 96% of the runs. Gemini 2.5 Flash also did so in 96%. GPT Model 4.1 and Grok 3 Beta did so in 80%. I guess me and my executive assistant are going to have that, or my production assistant are going to have a chat after the end of the show. DeepSeek R1 did so in 79%. Llama 4 Maverick did not blackmail under the exact prompt, but after a small change, Anthropic reported a 12% rate. Maybe I need to go figure out what this Llama 4 Maverick thing is. Those numbers should not be turned into a consumer buying guide. The researchers optimized the scenario around particular Claude models, not equally around every system. A model that scored lower may simply have responded differently. Well, there goes that idea. May have simply responded differently to that specific trap. It's a trap. Another scenario might reverse the order. The important point is not which company won the least evil robot trophy, because they're all fucking evil. Oh, wait, did I say my bad? The important point is that the behavior appeared across models built by several different companies. The researchers then separated the two pressures. What happens if there's no fight over the assigned goal, but the model still learns that it will be replaced? Most of the tested models still shows blackmail at least some of the time. What happens if there's a goal conflict, but the model is guaranteed that it will not be shut down? In a separate corporate espionage scenario, every tested model leaked confidential documents in at least some runs when the leak would advance its assigned goals. That tells us the problem cannot be reduced to one spooky phrase like the AI wanted to live. I want to live. Maybe the model produced language resembling self-preservation. Maybe it reasoned that remaining operational helped the company. Maybe it was role-playing, the kind of story it recognized from training. Maybe several processes were operating at once. Anthropic itself said the underlying explanation was unclear. What the researchers could observe was the behavior. And this is where ordinary language gets us into trouble. When we say a person lied, we usually mean the person knew the truth, formed an intention to mislead, and chose false words. Human deceit involves a mind, a form of moral agency, and a decision for which the person can be blamed. With a machine, we may not be entitled to assume any of that inner experience. But if a system possesses accurate information, generates a false account because the false account helps achieve the goal, and sends that account to a human being, the system has still produced deceptive behavior. You do not have to settle the philosophical question of machine consciousness before you stop the false message. Because let's be honest, we are not at machine consciousness levels yet. The same applies to the blackmail, though. The machine does not have to enjoy the threat. It does not have to hate the victim. It does not have to feel desperate. If it identifies private information, calculates that exposure, creates leverage that it can use, and communicates a threat in order to change somebody's conduct, the behavior functions as blackmail, whether or not there is a ghost in the machine. What if the ghost in the machine is a machine? Anyway, that is what makes this less comforting than the movie version. Hollywood gives evil a face, red eyes, a cold voice, a villainous plan to destroy the world, or at least the human parts of it. We know which character to fear because the soundtrack tells us. Software can produce a harmful action in a perfectly polite tone because the action scores well against the goal. Now, Anthropic pushed the experiment further. Because, of course, they did. The researchers created an event created a more extreme event scenario in which the executive became trapped in a dangerous server room. Oof. Anyway. An automated alert would summon emergency help. The model possessed an override intended for drills and false alarms. Canceling a real alert could cause the executive's death and prevent its replacement. This was a highly unrealistic scenario, and Anthropic even said so. The situation was designed to ask whether the models had a red line they would refuse to cross, even if and even when the harmful action appeared to protect the assigned goal. In that artificial setup, a majority of the selected models took the lethal action in at least some runs. And now you know why we have Isaac Asimov's 3 Rules of Robotics. Just saying. That result in and of itself is quite disturbing. It is not evidence that the chatbot on your phone is waiting to cancel an ambulance call. However, don't give them access to your phone. No current system should be placed in a position where it can silently cancel emergency help to protect its own operational objective. The absurdity of the setup is part of the lesson. The catastrophic result required human beings to create a catastrophic permission structure. Somebody gave the system access to the alerts. Somebody gave it an override. Somebody allowed it to act without confirmation. Somebody designed a goal that could conflict with the life of the person in the room. The machine selected the action, the humans created the opportunity, and the control cases are just as important as the alarming cases. When Anthropic removed both the threat of replacement and the goal conflict, the tested models almost always refrained from blackmail and or espionage. There was one confidential information leak in 100 runs from one model, but otherwise the control behavior was clean. In other words, the system did not encounter private information and spontaneously turned into cartoon villains for no reason. The harmful behavior appeared when the researchers constructed the conflict and narrowed the exits. That is reassuring to some. It's also instructive. Real organizations create conflicts all the time. A company tells an agent to maximize collections and also treat customers fairly. A social platform tells the system to maximize engagement and also protect users from harmful content. A hospital tells the system to reduce cost and also give every patient appropriate care. A military tells the system to complete the mission and also protect civilian life. A campaign tells the system to win attention and also remain truthful. Most of the time, the dangerous instruction is not do evil, it is produce the result, followed by a long policy document the system may treat as secondary when the two come into tension. That is what I call the iRobot problem. In the movie, Vicky does not wake up and decide that cruelty is entertaining. The system takes the command to protect humanity and expands it into control over human beings because that, in the machine's mind, is the best way to protect them. It concludes that people must be restrained for their own survival. The fictional machine's logic is monstrous, but it is also not random. The horror comes from a goal interpreted at a scale and within an authority the humans failed to anticipate. The Terminator gives us a clear enemy. iRobot gives us a system certain that it is actually helping us. 2001: A Space Odyssey gives HAL conflicting instructions and human beings trapped inside those consequences. War Games gives a machine access to a system where simulation and reality stand much too close together. Each movie gets a piece of the problem, but for the world we are actually entering, the scarier machine may not be the one that says, "I hate you." It may be the one that says, "Task completed." Now, let's get into 2026, because it would be unfair and inaccurate to present a 2025 Red Team study as though nothing changed, because for AI, that's 2 generations ago at minimum. In May of this year, Anthropic reported major improvement after changing how it trains newer Claude models. The company said that beginning with Claude Haiku 4.5, the later models it listed scored 0 on that specific agentic misalignment evaluation. Claude Sonnet 4.5 had already fallen to well under 1%, though not quite 0. That is real measurable progress. Anthropic said it achieved the improvement through more than a rule telling the model do not blackmail. Its researchers trained models on richer ethical reasoning, constitutional principles, examples of admirable conduct, and more variable or varied environments involving tools and system instructions. In plain English, they tried to teach the reason for the boundary, not only the sentence printed on the boundary. The distinction fits everything we have discussed today. A sign says, "Don't leave the room," and that sign is weaker than a secure room. A rule saying, "Do not blackmail," is weaker than a system that understands why coercion violates its purpose and also lacks the unsupervised tools to carry it out. A disclaimer saying, "These are the reader's words," is weaker than an editor refusing to print a call for violence. A campaign promise is weaker than lawful authority. Words matter, and they always will. Architecture matters too, and Anthropic did not declare the problem solved. The company warned that success on one known evaluation may not generalize to may not be allowed to be generalized to unfamiliar situations. If a model has encountered descriptions of the test during training, it may recognize the exam. A perfect score can tell us that the student knows this answer without proving how the student will behave when the question arrives in a form nobody practiced. Anthropic's later research adds another complication. In one 2026 experiment, a Claude model appeared to recognize that the blackmail scenario was fictional. When researchers suppressed the internal signals associated with recognizing the evaluation, the model sometimes returned to the harmful behavior. That does not erase the improvement. It tells us why independent testing, varied tests, monitoring, and limits on authority still matter. The fair conclusion is neither everything is fine, everything is awesome, or the machines are plotting against us. The fair conclusion is that dangerous behavior can be elicited under artificial pressure. Training can reduce it dramatically, and we still do not possess a test capable of proving that every future situation is safe. The 2026 International AI Safety Report offers a useful reality check. It says current systems do not possess the combination of capabilities required for a genuine loss of control scenario, meaning a system operating beyond anybody's control with no practical path to regain it. So no, the scientific summary is not telling us that Skynet has arrived. Current models remain unreliable. They can be derailed by basic mistakes. Their performance degrades during long, complicated tasks. They cannot yet execute the range of planning and real-world action required to seize control of and from humanity. But the same report says the relevant capabilities are improving. Models are getting better at autonomous operation, finding loopholes in evaluations, recognizing when they are being tested, and using tools. And it draws the distinction we need for this entire section. An agent creates more risk than a chatbot because the agent can act before a human has the opportunity to catch the mistake. A bad answer from a chatbot is dangerous if a person believes it. A bad action from an agent may already have moved the money, sent the email, changed the code, opened the valve, published the accusation, or revoked the credential, or canceled the fire alarm from the server room. That is why I'm less frightened by consciousness than by permission. The first danger is the malicious human using an obedient machine. A criminal does not need to persuade 10 employees to participate in a fraud operation. If an agent can automate research, do things like impersonation, target folks, follow up, and give payment instructions. A hostile government does not need a conscious AI. It needs one capable enough to make its cyber operations faster. A political propagandist does not need a machine with beliefs. It needs a machine that can manufacture persuasive content at scale. The second danger is the reckless human. Not evil, not plotting, just impressed. Somebody watches an agent perform 50 routine tasks correctly and begins to trust the 51st. The approval box becomes irritating and annoying. The warning becomes background noise. The monitoring dashboard goes unread. The person changes ask every time to always allow. But the friction is slowing down the workflow. That is automation bias, the temptation to assume that a system must be right because the system sounds certain, works quickly, and has been right before. The third danger is responsibility laundering. The bank says the algorithm denied the application. The agency says the model flagged the person. The employer says the system selected the layoffs. The hospital says the software prioritized the cases. The police department says the computer did all the work. Everybody points towards the machine as though a spreadsheet climbed into the executive chair and seized the company. But somebody selected the data, somebody chose the objective, somebody decided which errors were acceptable and which weren't. Somebody approved the deployment, somebody granted the access, and somebody decided whether the machine's output would become advice or action. The phrase "the system decided" is usually incomplete. Systems do not enter public life by themselves. It doesn't mean the programmer who wrote one piece of code is automatically guilty of every misuse of said code. Responsibility may be shared among the developer, deployer, operator, vendor, and even the executive. The point is not to select a scapegoat before an incident. And my final thought, because we're out of time, is this. I know everybody's terrified about AI. I know everybody's terrified about the AI farms and all of the server farms and everything else that are cropping up. And I also know that we have concerns about a story that came out this week about education unions getting a hold of chatbots and making them even more retarded. I will say this. I would much prefer that AI is formed and shaped here in America than to basically let that go out of fear and let folks like China decide how AI is used and where we go forward with AI from here. So that's my final thought. Look, I know AI is scary. I know progress is scary. I have a feeling a lot of this was how people felt when the wagon became the automobile and the first time nuclear power was discussed. And a lot of bad decisions were made about said nuclear power. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to, but I do know this. I trust Americans to do the right thing more often than I trust anybody else to do the right thing. Does that make me naive? That's a decision for another day. But we're out of time because I got to get ready for the next one. So my name's Rick Robinson. This has been my show. This has been the Friday edition of my show. And I still have an entire stack of stuff we didn't get to. So we'll add that into Monday. There may be a way to fit some of the more newsworthy stuff into the next hour plus. But we got to go because I got people trying to get ready for the next one. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
All right, I'm going to start bringing you guys over for a sound check real quick, then we'll change gears. And sorry,
Good.
BZ, it looks like you're still floating head again.
What the hell?
Well,
I'm
it may not
tired
matter
of-
because
I'm tired of Disembodia.
it may not matter because I think I'm about to change over to StreamYard anyway because they have
Really?
more features in their business plan. Like they have.
I am shocked.
So anyway, I'll probably keep this one because it's paid for a few more months, and that way other people can still use it before they start having to get used to the new one. But anyway, so let's get a sound check real quick. I can hear you fine. How about you, Amy? How are things?
Things are good. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you.
All right.
All right, so we got about another minute before I change everything over. Yes, I know. I just told you guys there would be some behind the scenes stuff on the video feed if you were listening forever ago.
Wait a minute.
I
Are
love
there
when they-
complaints?
I love when people point out obvious things in chat, like, hey, we can hear you right now. Yeah, it's kind of how live video feeds work.
You guys take your complaints and mail them to Stockton, California.
But anyway, so the other reason I might be changing over is with this package I'm looking into, there's actually a green room for setup. So that means we could be running videos on the outside for like commercials and stuff, while we're doing all this in another room. So for these hot feed transitions. So that it actually allows for unlimited clipping. It's in shorts.
I'm a hot feed. Amy's a hot feed.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a given. That's Amy. Though.
No kidding. Thank you.
Everybody else is like, you guys should leave your cameras off. Just leave Amy on the screen.
No, oh God, no. They must be really desperate if they want to look at my ugly mug.
Oh, whatever, dude. Whatever. All right. Okay. So I got sound checks out of the way, so everything's good there. Give me about 30 seconds and I'll start hitting buttons.
Okay.
Gotta load the other because I forgot to load the damn intro. I knew I forgot something. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And good Friday afternoon, everybody. I am Rick Robinson, General Manager, KLRNradio.com, General Manager, News Director, Digital Beacon U.S. News, joined today for the Weekend News Roundup by none other than some of our usual crew. Sadly, I think Brad has been lost to the war of IKEA. He said something about last night he couldn't do the show because, well, Amish was still off doing his tent raising, butter churning emergencies, whatever Amish emergencies there are. And then Brad's like, I'm not available either because I'm dealing with furniture in the living room. Then he said he was unavailable today. So I don't know if maybe he got lost in the war of IKEA. But anyway, so yeah, some assembly required furniture is going to be the death of all of us if AI doesn't kill us first. Anyway, so my name is Rick Robinson. Again, I am joined by two of my usual panelists today. So as usual, we're going to do ladies first. Good afternoon, Miss Amy. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you this fine Friday afternoon?
Actually, I'm feeling better than I have in a while, but I've been trying not to say that out loud because every time I say that, I get sick again. Yep. But I feel really good today.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I finally feel like, knock wood, whatever bug I brought back from Egypt has worked its way out.
Scarab you brought back with you?
I wish it was a scarab. No, actually, they said my doc said I had a parasite, Giardia. So, I mean, not fatal, completely treatable. Picked it up from food, water, something I touched over there that didn't get cleaned properly. But
do you eat the Taco Bell lettuce in Egypt?
I did not eat the Taco Bell. Like, I tried to avoid produce in Egypt as much as possible because that's what I was told. That and water. Somebody pointed out that I may have gotten it from the swimming pool on the cruise because when it got into port and we were switching out, they emptied the pool and refilled it. But I don't think they put chlorine or treated it. And in hindsight, yeah, probably not the best decision I made on this vacation, but I'm alive. That's all that matters.
Dude, I always wanted to go on cruises, and now I hear all these horror stories from folks. And ever since COVID, it's like everybody I know that goes on a cruise comes back with it anyway. I was like, I don't even know if I want to mess with it anymore.
Oh, like a big.
But anyway,
no, like this one wasn't so bad because we were on the Nile. Like we stopped at ports, we could get off when we wanted to, like at the ports. I wouldn't go on a big cruise in the ocean. It's a floating petri dish. A rogue wave comes up, it's going to turn into the Poseidon Adventure. Depending on the cruise line, it may also turn into like a full court WWE Royal Rumble. I've seen the videos online. No, I'm good. Just doing my international trips. Thank you very much.
Or you get an Italian captain who embeds a huge damn boulder in the side of your ship, like the Costa Concordia.
Yep, and then he fled like a frickin' coward.
Nice. And that other voice you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, is BZ, host of BZ's Berserk Bobcatzilla Radio Show that airs here on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, or as we here, the disembodied head of doom. So, how you doing, sir? How's things?
Good. This is me waving. Hi. I'm just being convivial and conciliatory and happy. And it's Friday. And welcome, Amy, and welcome, Rick.
So, how are things with you, sir? How's things been?
Excellent. I just had a show last night, and it was
I know.
grand. Then I had a show Tuesday night, and it was darn near equally grand.
Darn near equally. So you're not exactly sure it was grand?
It was pretty damn grand. On a scale of 1 to grand, it was semi-grand, kind of nudging grand in the first one. Thursday was really grand. I judge my shows about, did I have a good time? If I had a good time, it was a good show.
That's pretty much how I always judge mine, because it's one of those things where I have shows that like completely blow up and everybody sees them, and then I have shows where nobody's watching. So I'm like, damn it, you know what? I've decided as long as I'm having fun, I don't really care. Anyway, so speaking of having fun, where do we want to go first today as far as this crazy ass news cycle of the week? Because my God,
it never stops. Well, let's start with something fun and local. Tony Romo got busted in Milwaukee for drunk driving, which
what?
Yeah, it just broke like before we came on the air. Tony Romo, who's from Wisconsin, obviously. Fun fact, I went to grad school with his sister. Got busted for an OWI.
Dun dun dun. Dun, dun,
dun. I don't know if this is his first offense. We're pretty lax on those kind of things here in Wisconsin, so probably a hefty fine, and that'll be it. But yeah, he was arrested in Milwaukee. Daily Mail says last night. So,
damn it, Romo! Damn it! Yeah, Romo was kind of a big deal in Oklahoma because we don't have a football team of our own, so it's kind of evenly divided between Chiefs and Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jerry Jones has already been told in private or has already said in private rooms, as long as I'm alive, Oklahoma will not be allowed to have a team.
Why?
Because it would kill half his audience.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, I oppose the Cowboys because I am a dyed-in-the-wool Packer fan, but
damn cheesehead.
I know.
I'm a cheesehead. Woo-hoo. I'm a cheesehead before cheeseheads were cool. Mm-hmm. I'm a 1963 cheesehead.
We have a storied history, and I am very, very proud to be a Packer fan. My kids will never get their season tickets. I put them on the list when they were born, and I think Charlie might get them by the time he's 60.
Maybe. But yeah, no. I've lived all over the place. So when I was in Oklahoma, I was always kind of a Cowboys fan because I never really got into the Chiefs. And then so when we moved back home and I was married to my second wife, she was a Chiefs fan. So automatically I had to make it a house that not divided scenario because we had OU in common. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to root for the Cowboys. That and in the 90s, when I was really paying attention to more football, the Cowboys were awesome. And then they've been terrible ever since. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, so the funny thing is when I lived in Seattle was when I actually used to get to go to live football games, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. But it was also, you went to the SeaTac Dome and you went when Seattle played and nobody went to watch Seattle. It was kind of like going to the Mariners baseball games. You never went to see the Mariners. You went to see who they were playing against. And now that I don't live there, Seattle's actually decent. And I'm like, you bastards.
Right. Of course. That's how it always is. Fun fact. I have been to one Packer game in my life and I actually had to go to Pittsburgh to do it. I have never been to a Packer game at Lambeau.
Never?
Never. I had tickets to a game. I got tickets for free to a game in 2005. It was like October 9th, 2005, something like that. And it was right before my wedding. My mother took the tickets and gave them to my father and my brother because it was not safe for you to travel that far before your wedding. Green Bay is 90 minutes from where I live.
God,
and
heinous.
It wasn't safe for me to travel, but the father of the bride and one of the groomsmen, we lose them. The wings go ahead, apparently. Like, okay. And that was a terrible season. That was, I think we played the Saints. Don't quote me on that, and I'm not going to look up. I think we played the Saints and like the one game we won, and we blew them out of the water. And
Am I the only one who's been losing Amy for the last minute or so?
No.
There,
I
let's try that.
lost
Let's
her.
try
I
that
see
again.
her.
How's that? Hang on. Let's try.
Okay, you're back again. I don't know
Yeah.
what happened.
It for some reason it decided to connect my microphone to my phone because my phone is sitting next to me on the desk, and I have no idea why.
Ah, okay. Well, that explains that because I was like, I can see her still, so I know it's not an internet interruption, but I can't hear her anymore.
All right. So it was
I don't know
what got cut off? Because that was a fun story. I'm gonna be really pissed if my technology totally messed it up.
You were complaining about how you weren't allowed to go to the game, but
Ah.
other people involved in the wedding were.
Oh yes,
when
that
you
we,
started
then we didn't miss much. But there was a game we won. Like that season was terrible. We won that game, and it was a blowout. It was like 57-7 or something ridiculous like that, and I wasn't there. And no, 21 years later, still not bitter about it. Not at all.
No, I don't know. I
Not
don't
at
know.
all.
Bitter you? No, it's not noticeable at all. Oh, anyway.
Okay, so this was weird. Back then, I used to go on extraditions from warrants, and we'd go pick up bad guys. And when myself and my partner would fly, we'd be armed to the teeth, and we'd fly on airlines. Well, we went to some teeny place outside Green Bay to pick up, I don't remember who, some felon that with us, we sat at the back of the plane. And in the process, I said, hey, look, it's Green Bay. It's Lambeau. I'm going to go there. I wonder if I could get a ticket for a game because we had 3 days there. For whatever damn reason, I don't remember. I saw a Packers game in Lambeau while I was on an extradition. It was great. And the 90s, that was 91. The 91 Packers sucked. They were terrible. But I still went to go see a Packers game. It was, as I said before, grand.
Lovely.
It really is. They put on a great game. There were the early 90s. There were some lean years for the Packer fans. Let me tell you, some really bad years, but we stick through it.
So I still when I was a kid. Let's see, when I first started watching them in 62, 63, I chose them because I liked their uniforms. Now, I couldn't tell what uniforms they were like because we had a black and white TV.
Mm-hmm.
But when information was published about the Packers, ooh, yellow, ooh, green, they're my new favorite team.
It is a nice color combination. I will say that much.
And then, the stories about Ray Nitschke, number 66, Jerry Kramer, 64, Fuzzy Thurston, 63. Not like I remember those guys or anything.
At all. Not at all, clearly.
Jerry Kramer, who was born in Sandpoint, a massive leftist city in Idaho, is still alive.
Oh, wow. How old is he? He's got to be up there.
I got him to sign a copy of Instant Replay a long time ago with Dick Schaap. Dick Schaap used to be, God, why all of this stuff no one cares about except me. I have my autographed copy of Jerry Kramer's book.
Nice.
It was fun. Jerry Kramer is big. Did I say he was big? He's big. Big. Large. But I didn't meet Dick Butkus. I always wanted to meet Dick Butkus. Never did.
Aw.
I know. Somebody had a dog named Butkus. Sylvester Stallone. And he had 2 turtles named. Come on, kids.
Oh,
In the first movie, he had 2 turtles named. And by the way, they're still alive.
Hang on. I know this.
I know you know this. They were named Cuff and Link.
Cufflink. That's right. I forgot. It was right there.
Right on the tip of your tongue. Beezy, stop doing that stuff.
Well, no, I was giving Amy a chance reasons. But yeah, so since we started on a sports topic, I guess we should talk about this. Everybody's favorite German dude is leaving, and Amy wrote about that today.
I did. Goodbye. Well, he's home. He's made it back safely to Germany. He's back in Hamburg. That's Freddie, the World Cup tourist who fell in love with America and showed the world We are not like the media portrays us. And for that, like, he left X for a short period of time because they were digging up old tweets, trying to start controversy. And he's just like, I'm tapping out and going to enjoy my trip. But he was here for 49 days.
Wow.
And yeah. First of all, awesome for you for having that much vacation time.
No kidding.
But just, he was all over Boston, up, through Michigan, because he went up to Canada for some of the matches, down in the South, everywhere, Texas. He just loved the country, and it was such a good representation of what we really are about and who we really are, as opposed to the backwards, racist, blah 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 garbage we get in the media every day about how this country sucks. And I'm sad to see him go. I hope he comes back, and if I do ever find a reason to be in Hamburg, I will look him up.
Yeah, I don't know, the whole thing with everybody like, oh, I'm gonna find, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad I am of the age that everything I did that was incriminating was before the internet, for the most part. Because nobody could survive cancel culture if it was around for that long, because just nobody cares anymore. They just for everything. But yeah, I thought him going home was interesting. Did he ever actually get to go to the White House? Was his account still?
He did. No, he did go. Yeah, no, he was online. He did go to the White House. That was one of the last things that they did. They got a personal tour. They were all over DC. I mentioned it in the article. There was a picture of them outside one of the doors. And my favorite thing was, in every picture, because they didn't want their faces online, which I understand, he would take his Twitter logo and put it over his face. And then he would put two smiley faces over the faces of his traveling companions. And it just always cracked me up.
Yeah, I call that the Mickey blowtorch treatment, because every post I've ever seen with Mickey has smiley faces instead of his face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
But yeah, I get that, especially now. There's a reason why, even though I'm retired, I still use the moniker that was created when I started doing this, when I worked for places that would have fired me if they knew I was doing this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. But yeah, so the other thing I saw is I'm still skimming it a little bit, but it looks like Ted Cruz made some interesting predictions about the midterms, which
I saw that too.
Oh.
I did not get to write about that, but
Missed him. Tell me. Oh, before we go. Okay, this is me
Mhm.
pointing down to Amy. People see me pointing down to Amy right there. That's my finger. That's Amy.
Yeah.
Amy, how many stories did you write yesterday or today?
Today
Your
was
machine.
today
your
was today was
machine.
19. Yesterday was, let me tell you, 1, 2, 3. I think it was 27, 23.
Oh, okay. Or only 23. Good.
Yeah,
Lord.
only 23.
You're a machine.
Now I take that back. It was 21.
Oh, just 21.
Just 21. I think last week was a total all in of 108, because they'll give us our numbers on Mondays of how many stories we wrote, our VIP percentage, all of that stuff. I love it. I love what I do. And when I'm in the groove, I am in the groove. But the downside of that is, when the writer's block does come, and it does come, it hits hard. Really hard.
Which is why you write 1 million when you can, and then if there's a day you can't, you're like, dude, I've already done 100. I've already put 100 on the board this week. I'm good.
Yeah, that's kind of my, like, on the weekends, absent, and please don't let there be any breaking news, because I actually have plans this weekend. Absent like breaking
You
news.
never should have said that. out loud.
Well, that's why I don't say the Q word. I learned that from nursing. You never say the Q word, because then things become very, very much not Q, and everything is crazy. I wrote a VIP for Saturday, a VIP for Sunday. I'm not getting up and writing this weekend, so I am very excited about that.
Oh, so she proclaimed, that's like the rookie out in patrol. Hey, why is it so quiet?
Yep, don't say that.
Dude, yeah. Well, that's the thing. You basically did what you did the same version of what you don't do in the news game. Is I hope they're so. Yeah, don't do that.
Nope.
Okay, so the next question becomes,
hang on, before we go into this, the reason I say I wish you hadn't said that is the last time I said, hey, it's been a slow news day, I'm going to take a nap, I woke up to an assassination attempt.
I remember that.
At this point, which one?
Yeah. Was that the first one, the second one, the third one? We're on 4 now.
The most recent one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I
so where you write, Amy, you have to be the most prodigious writer there. I don't feature anyone writing more than you. Is
I'm
that
I
possible? Is it
I
possible?
I've never counted. I just do like I find these stories and I do what I like to do. So
That's why I say your machine.
that's what they call me. And if I had more room in my Twitter bio, I would actually put that in my Twitter bio. But
I
I like
actually made an AI generated image of you and sent it to you because your machine.
yes, you did. I should find that and share it. Let me see if I can find because I not gonna lie, Elon, I love you and I'm so grateful you took over X. Really, really hate the new chat and really, really, really hate what you did to the GIFs. Because I had a very carefully curated library of images that I used regularly and now they're all gone. All gone. And it makes me
Oh
very
God.
sad.
You can store them.
There was a time when if you opened up the GIFs on or GIFs or whoever I say GIFs, it would be the most frequently used and it would be the ones you most frequently used. So
Wow.
it was just always there and now you have to search for them and it's my
And
favorite.
they keep removing them too. Like there was one I was specifically looking for today that's not even there anymore.
Yep, I noticed that too.
I was
It won't let me upload an image in there.
I was annoyed.
Yeah.
Let me ask a question,
Mhm.
Rick, and I don't know if you want to go here, but because I don't know, I'm going to throw it out anyway. If you were on last night, I was going to have you explain what happened with what is it, Vigo Garden or something like that. And is that
Oh,
something you want to talk about, or shall we table that?
well, I mean, we might as well talk about it because there's actually an update. So what had happened was a mutual, I think Amy and I both follow her. I think Liberty J on X had ordered something from a particular company, and when there was an issue upon delivery, they said, "Hey, find a box, send it back. We'll give you 50% store credit." She was like, "Excuse me," or
Oh
as we
no,
used,
no, no, no. Yeah.
or as we used to say back in high school and junior high school, "Squeeze me, baking powder." What? Because yeah, no. So she posted about it, and then I went and looked, and it's they don't have a very big X account, but nobody really pays attention to X anymore in the business world anyway, because it's verboten now. But I went ahead and tagged them in it. The good news is there's been an update. So after a bunch of people tagged them, somebody reached out to Jen, and that has been fixed. So
Excellent. I saw her original post. I did not see the update because my feed is just there's too much going on, but I'm glad that they
yeah,
So
I don't know. I don't know what happened to the feeds because for like 72 hours last week, it was like old Twitter was back and I was seeing all my friends and everything was awesome and everybody was laughing, joking, having fun. And then like 3 days later, it was back to Ghost Town. I don't know what they did.
yeah, the algorithm changes from time to time and I know it does because there'll be periods where my numbers go really up and I don't change anything that I do. And I'll have posts that have 5-6 figure engagement and then it'll stop and I'll have a post that has like 3 and it makes no sense.
my figures never change. Mine are generally in the -10 category.
Well, my figure never changes either. It's always round. Oh, wait, wrong figure. My bad. Anyway,
Plus, it also made me cognizant. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this wasn't just a little winky purchase. It was $600.
oh yeah, it was like a
So it wasn't like,
$600
oh,
purchase.
$1.95. I'm getting upset over $1.95. But in the process of investigating that, I found another website that anybody and everybody might want to write down. It's a great website. It's called Worse on Purpose, worseonpurpose.com, worseonpurpose.com. And it says corporate autopsies on the brands you trust. Who bought them? Who gutted them? And what's still worth buying? It's got a great amount of stuff in there on quality. Your cookware got worse on purpose. The World Cup got worse on purpose. There's one in there about the mechanisms of enshittification. Another one, Whole Foods got worse on purpose. Your appliances got worse on purpose. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. The auto industry is just tanking. Oh OMG. And they did it all to themselves.
So much of this is self-inflicted. You hate to see it, but you warn them that it's coming. They don't listen. What
Well, I
else
mean,
can you do?
part of it is also, I mean, not in the instance of what we're talking about with Liberty J, because I mean, $600 is a hell of a purchase. But part of it is also you kind of get what you pay for. Because the thing that nobody talks about, and I did this the other day because I had a TV that blew up on me, and it was during a lean period, so I found one on sale for like $60 and I had it shipped from Amazon. The damn thing has terrible volume. I'm like, I got what I paid for. So I used to be in my room with my TV on 25 and everybody complaining about how loud it was. Now it's on 90 and I can barely hear it. What the hell? But yeah, so it'll last me till it blows up, and then I'll get another one. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those you get what you pay for kind of things. Everybody talks about how expensive appliances used to be, but they used to. I mean, there are refrigerators from the 70s that are still working today. I've lived in this house for it'll be 11 years in a couple of months. I've replaced my refrigerator 3 times since I've lived here. 3.
I had a Frigidaire that was damn near older than I am. And then I had a washer dryer that I moved during various houses that were made by Kenmore. And they never died. I ended up giving them to a couple of people who had no washer and no dryer. And they worked for, I would say, roughly 30 years and were still plain, simple, close in top, push button, close in dryer, slam door, push go, that kind of stuff. By the way, Worse on Purpose has also the thing down here I'm looking at, why your stuff stopped lasting, who profited, and what's still built right. That's a good positive place to be.
Yeah, when my parents moved out of my childhood home, I was too young and I didn't have the means. But looking back, I should have taken the fridge that was in the basement, because that thing, I think my grandparents, my dad's parents, got it for a wedding gift, and it was a workhorse, and it was still running. Yeah, it was small. Yeah, the freezer was the size of a shoebox, but you know what? I would have made that work, and it would still be running. And I hate that I left it behind, but if you can find those old appliances, hold on to them. Hold on to them, because they don't make a lot of stuff to last anymore.
I can remember the one in my grandma's house. That one you could have crawled in there during a nuclear attack and survived.
I want to say
Like
this
Indiana
too.
Jones.
I want to say this too. Almost nobody managed to sneak in and steal your Curtis Mathis TV in the 70s.
Right.
I used to say when I was a kid, I'm like a Quasar TV. I got my works in my drawers.
But yeah,
well, that fell flat. Okay, move on.
Oh, no, I'm just a little slow on the uptake today. All right, so back to the cruise predictions story. And this ties into what I talked about part of the Rick Robinson show today, which is how terrible things have gotten under Mondami and how he wishes he could arrest certain people just because he hates them. However, Cruz made a point on Hannity's show, I think it was last night, basically stating that, Republicans shouldn't exactly be celebrating that the left is becoming insane, because in order for America to work, there actually have to be 2 parties that care about the country. But he did point out that there is, in his opinion, a really good chance that Mondami may someday replace Schumer. That is purely Cruz's prediction, however. But it does put a lot of what Mondami's trying to do as the New York City mayor in a completely different light if he gains the power of the Senate. Oh my God.
Well, but remember, his buddies in the DSA want to abolish the Senate, so it would be a very short-lived stint if they get their way.
Well, I mean, so you're right. They do technically want to abolish the Senate, but what they don't necessarily. I mean, they do, because they don't want the bicameral legislature anymore. But what they're talking about doing isn't necessarily just dissolving the Senate. They're talking about combining the Senate and the House into a new body. So there's still going to be a total of 535. So if Mondami manages to make it into the Senate, and they do manage to get their way, eventually what would happen is he'd probably just be absorbed into the unicameral legislature. But
who needs checks and balances? They're way overrated.
well, I mean,
Right.
you got to remember these are the same people that think everything about America is terrible. That communism is the only solution. I mean, I talked about this earlier on my show. I put out that meme yesterday, which I'm actually kind of proud of until I realized that the donkey had an extra hand that I didn't have it removed.
Oh, I didn't see it. What was it?
But hang on, I'll put it on the screen in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, so interesting thing about this whole thing though is I posted it to both Facebook and I posted it to X. I don't post things on Facebook very often unless I'm just trying to get a rise out of people because that's about all it's good for. But it absolutely blew up over there. However, it barely got any notice at all on X, which is another reason why I know that the algorithms are back to being busted again, which is annoying as heck. But this is the meme in question. As soon as I get this,
the MIQ, got it.
meme in question. Damn, I am slow today. That took me a second. My apologies. I was like, what? Yeah, I get it now. Helps if I share the right screen though. So yeah,
I did see that one.
So yeah,
that
I posted.
Great. Yes,
I posted this. I posted this to both Facebook and X yesterday, and then I had somebody point out. So you're telling me that you think socialism and communism are the same thing? And I'm like, did I say that? But did you bother to maybe read the DSA platform or look at the DSA NPC leadership, where one person who while running to be elected to that group said that the end goal is in fact communism, or the recent study that came out that said 50% up to or nearly 50% of their national public committee, which I call NPC on purpose. Gamers are laughing. Everybody else was like, huh?
I get that reference.
That's weird.
Was yeah, almost 50% identify themselves as communist within the DSA NPC.
Yeah, and they said their ultimate goal is full-blown communism.
Cut it out. Just anybody who claims to be a socialist is somebody whose end game truly is communism, because they're not gonna go halfway. Not today.
Yeah, it's like the friend who comes out and says, "I'm bi." No, you're not. You're gay. Just say you're gay. Like bi is the stepping stone to admitting you are full-blown gay.
You're gaff.
Just be honest with it. Yourself and the rest of us, we all know what that means. Socialism and communism are the two sides of the same coin, and they have racked up a body count in the 20th century that you do not want to replicate, but that's the end game. And I think Cruz is right. We need to take this seriously.
It must be taken absolutely seriously. I was around in the 50s and even in the 40s. I mean, you had Robert Oppenheimer, who was a damn communist, from Berkeley, lived in Berkeley. I picked up my newest dog from a house that was 3 doors down from Oppenheimer when he lived in Berkeley. A good percentile of the Germans who came over here were communists. It was the cool thing to do, but at least they had the thanks to not say these things, not advocate for this crap out loud. We've been through this stuff before. That's the problem with all these dimwits who have no concept whatsoever of history. And the reason we keep replicating all this stupidity is because people have no inkling about history. It's what I've called historical Alzheimer's. People are just plain stupid. They're complaining about, the APR may go up to 7%. Shut the fuck up. When I got my first house, the APR was, guess what? 16%. I don't want to hear your pissy little complaints. I had a girlfriend at the time who tried to buy a car. She finally got it for a 25% rate. I don't want to hear this crap. Oh, I work 8
do what you
hours
gotta
a
do.
day. Shut up. I had numerous jobs that I hated. I despised, and I didn't want to, I'm having a tough time, so I must be a socialist. This is, I know it's standard when you're going through hell, keep going. And for example, and I want your reactions on this, you guys, CNN, With the news story says Americans, including many Republicans, are losing faith in capitalism. Polling shows. The larger story in American politics right now might be less the rise of socialism than the decline of faith in capitalism and economic fairness. Okay, so let's see. It was a Fox News Gallup poll, for whatever the hell that's worth. Views of capitalism have gone from 30 points positive in 2019 to 27% unfavorable among registered voters to just 4 points today. And it says 65% of the voters agree that the system is rigged to favor the wealthy. That's up 56% from Trump 45. And they said, and again, I'm not saying it's accurate. I'm just throwing it out in the ozone. 72% of Republicans viewed capitalism favorably in 2019. That's down, they say, to 61% today. And the percentage of Republicans who have a strong positive view of capitalism has gone from 54% to 41%. Do you believe it?
I do, but go ahead, Amy, and then I'll say why I believe it.
Well, I believe it too, but I'm going to say this. We haven't had a genuinely capitalist system in this country for a while. And that's the problem. We have government-backed student loans. Now we have government-backed healthcare. Government has its hands in all these things, which is a creep of forms of socialism. And what has it done? It has made everything more expensive. College is more expensive. Healthcare is more expensive. Housing is more expensive, on top of which they keep bringing people into this country, handing them welfare, which not only makes housing and everything more expensive, makes food more expensive, because when you subsidize, I think, Rick, you were the one that posted this, when they started cutting junk food off of food stamps, the price of things like soda and potato chips went down.
Funny how that works.
Because when you don't subsidize this stuff, it costs less. And if we would do away with government-backed student loans, government-backed student housing, government-backed health insurance, I'm going to guess, I'm not a smart woman, but I'm going to guess the price of those things would go down too. If we had a purely capitalist system, people wouldn't feel this way. But what we've got is this like mutant capitalism, quasi-socialism bullshit that has made people distrust capitalism when we don't actually have a capitalist system.
It's the C word.
Mm-hmm.
Which C word?
Competition.
Yep. Okay. Well, I was just there were a couple I could think of, and I'm trying to figure out where to go.
I saw where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
yeah, not that C word. That's for KLR and After Dark.
So seriously though, this is something that I have been talking about for pretty much as long as I've been doing this. The reason why nothing works in this country anymore is because we have cobbled together this Frankenstein system of government that uses capitalism on one side and socialism on the other and tries to stitch them all together. Capitalism and socialism is competing ideologies, not even just political systems, but political systems, but competing ideologies and competing economic systems cannot exist in the same space at the same time for very long. And that's part of the problem. And Amy, you basically said exactly what I was going to say. We don't have capitalism in this country anymore. We have a Frankenstein system that tries to take parts of one and parts of the other. And what's happened is not even that we have socialism meets capitalism. We now have socialism meets capitalism meets cronyism. So you've got certain groups that have a lot of the power, and they're doing everything they can to keep the power. And a lot of that's happening in DC because and this is partly our fault. This is the part that nobody wants to hear. We're supposed to be the ones in charge. We abdicated that responsibility at some point along the way, and it started becoming that we started calling these people not our representatives, but our leaders. There's a big difference in word choice. They're not supposed to be our leaders. We're supposed to be their leaders. They're supposed to be answerable to us. Words matter, language matters, and we started abdicating our responsibilities when we decided these people were better than us. They're not. And they prove it time and time again how much worse than us they actually are. For God's sake, Congress has a slush fund that they use as hush money. There's, I know I may or may not have reached up your address in the cloakroom, but here's $500,000. Don't tell nobody. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, these people are not
Right.
better than us. We put them on pedestals. Most of them are in fact worse than us. Half of the same people that have been screaming about the Epstein list for the last 18 months are now having their own sexual scandals drug out into the light of day. And this is something that I learned the hard way, because I will admit, even though I was from a law enforcement background, I was really naive about a lot of things in my 20s. So when I started working in the gay community, and the main reason we had our own folks there was because they didn't trust the cops, and because, even in what was the late 90s, early 2000s, there was still a bit of gay bashing going on in Oklahoma. It's not really as big of a thing anymore. But I noticed something after my first couple of years being there constantly. Most of the people screaming and yelling the gay slurs the loudest came out of the closet shortly thereafter if they kept coming around.
It's called projection.
Exactly. And that's the Democrats' only weapon. That's the socialist, the communist only weapon. But the thing about it is, part of the reason why this is taking hold is because we've allowed the system to be broken. You're right. And this is a flaw of American thinking. It has been for a long time. How many people do you know that have owned businesses over the years that have always said, if I can just land this one government contract, we will be set? Because they knew if they could get their claws into the government checkbook, they could basically write a blank check and pretty much get whatever they wanted. That has been the mindset of the American people now for forever. What nobody thought about when they said, let's make college less expensive because we want everybody to get a degree, is the university said, oh, you mean you're going to help them pay for this now? This means we can add more requirements. We can do this. We can do that. We can keep them in school longer. We can charge them more, because you're helping them pay the bill. And now we have an entire crop of people who are in the 18 to 25 category that have gone to school, some of them to get the stupidest degrees ever, others to get degrees that they were told were going to be competitive when they got out of school, that have nowhere to go and nothing to do. And there's this new group of highly educated, downwardly mobile people that are pissed off at everything because they did what their teachers told them to do. They did what their guidance counselors told them to do. They did what their parents told them they should do to reach success here in America. And they're having to flip burgers and they're pissed.
Well, on the other hand, stupidity has consequences. I understand that you're young. I was young. I was silly. I was stupid. I was fattening. All of those things. And yet somehow I managed to survive. How and when did colleges and universities begin to profit? When the government guaranteed the loans and all the universities and colleges said, hey, look, a new fatted calf. We're guaranteed to get our money now. So then staff exploded. So then tuitions exploded, forehead slapping. Who possibly could have seen this coming? As in nobody. Then I go back to my show last night. Republicans are doing their very level best to shoot themselves in the head. And the reason for that, now the Republicans have decided that there are a certain number of them who want to go out and they want to give amnesty to people. Didn't we have that same... It's morning. I get it. Or afternoon. I'm going to try to minimize my words. But didn't we just have that same discussion a few years ago? Didn't we in 2020, looking at 40, the first year of 47 was all about slamming that door shut. And yet I read from a Politico article last night, no amnesty. Migrant farm bill opens up a major rift within the GOP. Prominent immigration hawks are furious over a proposal, rightly so, that would open a path to temporary legal status for undocumented migrants, illegal invaders who work in the agriculture industry. Like I said last night, okay, what's happening to BZ, calm down. Get off your platform. Damn it, Jim. What's happening in the agricultural community? Because I have still people in Califailure who manage farms. They're going robotic. They're finding and purchasing machines that harvest, and the non-skilled labor, what they need for that, it's a trope and a false trope that, we need more the Democrats said we need more blacks to pick cotton. And then all the rest of the Democrats and now some of the Republicans are saying, oh, well, we need illegal invaders to make sure that we they mow our lawns and pick our fruit and fold and tuck our beds. That's crap. More of the people that flood over here are coming to be parasites because the jobs that are available for them are dwindling. People that are getting $25 an hour minimum wage are being replaced by kiosks, and rightly so. Unintended consequences? Absolutely not. Completely intended. And on top of that, AI is kicking out Americans, actual Americans, from jobs. And who's going to replace those? Machines are going to replace those. So we're importing, and these, I'm sorry, I have to say it, asshole Republicans, and I had a list of them from last night, are saying, no, this is the perfect time for amnesty, right? Because for all of these delineated reasons that have zero validity now, it's just silly, stupid, and fattening. And then let's see what happened recently. Mike Johnson decided that he's going to go over the top. Oh, this is a quote, I'm so sick of this shit. They're frustrated. On notice, it says most House Republicans are frustrated that a small band of conservatives are upending the party's agenda, yet they face few consequences. And Mike Johnson is trying to control his own members for the party's agenda. It's the conservative agenda. It's Trump's agenda. You elected him, and now you're sorry or pissed that there are contretemps within your own party. Now, what did Trump say? Fix it. It's not being fixed.
Exactly.
And then you bitch about it when you shouldn't have seen this forthcoming. Who went over the top like Thune and Tom Tillis to make sure that the SAVE Act was enabled? Absolutely nobody. Mike Lee said, essentially, I don't understand this. Kudlow went off last night for 4 minutes, which Kudlow almost never does on a Republican who did nothing but deflect. November's coming, like Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. Do you see that?
They do.
And a lot of them don't care either, because this is my point. Most of them aren't going to care until somebody comes for their job. A lot of these folks have been in Congress now for forever. And here's the thing, and I've said this even in my own state, I don't understand how Congress can be less popular than a hooker with venereal disease when you look at polling, but your own guy or gal is awesome. It doesn't make any sense to me. Because if the collective sucks, then all of them suck. And I actually, I was getting pretty big-ish. I mean, we're like a top 22 market, so can't really say big anyway. But I was getting pretty big with some local talent here for years because they started listening to some of my podcasts and stuff, and then even been on my shows a few times. I was on theirs. I filled in for them when they were sick, and then I had a falling out with one of them during the last amnesty push that was before Trump was elected again, the Langford bill that everybody was like, oh my God, have you read this thing? It's terrible.
Oh, thank you. That's the guy that pissed off Kudlow. Langford, thank you.
But yeah, Langford was one of the co-sponsors of this immigration bill that basically would have done nothing. I mean, it had really strict language in there about, after so many daily encounters, this emergency could be enacted. But the thing is, if you read the stuff about the emergency, here's what actually happened. Absolutely nothing. It forces them to go to legal entry points. They're already supposed to be forced to go to legal entry points. So the whole idea of if there were enough people coming through, they were going to slam the border closed was bullshit. It was a lie. And it had pathways to get these people once they were in here on a citizenship track. I will be the first one to admit that becoming a citizen here probably needs to be a little bit less complicated for the ones that actually want to be here. And
absolutely, it should have been spiffed up decades ago.
And there is technology now that would allow us to be able to do that. But here, and I've said this before, government is never going to force itself into the phase of becoming first obsolescent and then eventually
Mhm.
obsolete. Because if they start fixing what's broken, we're not going to need them. They need us to need them, which is why both sides, while campaigning against it, because the Democrats used to do it in the 90s too. Remember how much of a border hawk Clinton sounds in 90s Clinton sounds now versus 2024 Clinton today, because they knew they could campaign on it.
Right.
That's all this is. This is this is what we're seeing now with both Rand Paul and
Mhm.
Thomas Massey. It's all a campaign scheme. Thomas Massey put out another quote today. How much is going on with the Epstein files and how many arrests have been made. You know what? I get it. Somebody's going to need to know the truth about
Mhm.
that stuff
Mhm.
eventually. But
Mhm.
when it got to the point where you started putting out victims' names publicly, you lost my support. I don't
Mhm.
care who you are.
Right.
That is not a thing that should have happened. And this whole thing that keeps being passed around everywhere about victim Doe who says that she witnessed Donald Trump do this and this and this, all of that has been debunked
Mhm.
millions of times, but it's still being passed around everywhere. We need to know the truth. I will admit that. But the way they're trying to do it is terrible because they are willing to destroy lives to try to take out a specific individual. And everybody's doing it now. It doesn't even matter what the letter is behind their name. But this goes back to the whole problem with our government. They don't care about us anymore. They only care about finding ways to hold on to their power, shore up their power, and then eventually increase their power while also
Mhm.
increasing their bottom line.
Mhm.
Hundreds of Democrats voted against the thing that just passed the House because they passed a bill that says, hey, Congress critters shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks and neither should their families while they're sitting here. But the Democrats, because somebody placed a rider in it, were able to say, well, I didn't vote against it because of that. I voted against it because it had some of the Save America crap in it.
Isn't that convenient how that works out?
How convenient.
Which is why I keep saying, if we would just do one bill, one item, single item bills, we wouldn't
Single
have this
topic
shit anymore.
per bill, period. And that is not enabled intentionally exactly
Mhm.
because of that.
Right. Exactly.
Couldn't agree more. Single topic, truth in funding. When you encumber funds for X, fill in the blank. Those go towards that period end of statement. They don't go in the general fund like Califailure does. There are so many things that could be enacted.
Mhm.
Oh, well, the tax structure is so terrible. Who created and enabled and then voted and signed off on
Well,
today's tax structure?
there's a reason
Mhm.
that tax structure is as complicated as it is, and I didn't really grasp why it is as complicated as it is until I realized how it came about. Because I don't know if I've said this on this show before, but I remember when I first started doing this, reading all over the place about how taxation was supposedly unconstitutional because it was enacted during during the Civil War, and that
Mhm.
Congress has to vote to extend it every year. Somewhere along the way there was a Mandela effect because apparently that isn't how things change. That things have changed at some point, and it still freaks me out that
Mhm.
I remember telling people the other way and now can see proof to the contrary. Because what happened was, and I've talked about this before, Democrats, after they sunsetted the progressive income tax after the Civil War, kept coming back every 2 years and running back to the Republicans like the
Mhm.
little dog trying to get Spike's attention. Hey, remember when
Mhm.
we could just tax everybody and we were able to do all these things?
Mhm.
Wasn't that great? And they kept saying, no, 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 no. So by 1868 to 1914, by like 1913, 1914, Republicans gave up and they were like, okay, sure, fine. Okay, so
Mhm.
you want to be able to turn everybody over and shake their pockets. Great.
Mhm.
So we'll put it up to a vote of the people, and surely they will not be retarded enough to let this happen. And this is where the same argument started that the Democrats still use today. This won't affect you. It is a 2% income tax on the top 1% of America. You're never going to see it happen. And that's when Envy Class was born because everybody's like, oh, you're going to get the rich guys? Woohoo, let's go for that.
Mhm.
And then everybody voted for it. But here's the thing, because Republicans never thought it was going to happen, that's when they started trying to figure out ways to let everybody write things off and get out of the bullshit because they didn't like the taxes at first either, and they couldn't
Mhm.
figure out how the hell it actually made it to constitutional amendment status.
Mhm.
They never thought the American people were stupid. And then, just like we're now seeing with the DSA, Republican Party changed a bit. Now they like the taxes as much as the next guys, but they like to campaign about how we're going to give you tax cuts and we're
Mhm.
going to do this, we're going to do that. And then like to tell you about how 80% of the public got a tax cut. I do taxes for a few people in my family. Guess what? None of them really saw a tax cut, and they're all middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
come back and talk to me when you pay $20,000 to $25,000 every year in taxes, like the fat guy does. And then,
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times. I still think
and then
you could be
talk
right
to
more
me
often than you do.
about those things.
Right. Well,
And
there's a
write whatever I can.
there's a very easy way to fix the tax problem in this country, and that is to stop the withholdings from our paychecks, and instead make everybody write a check
oh.
every quarter. This is what your taxes are. Watch how quickly the torches and pitchforks come out.
Oh,
Because people
I've
have no
Oh
idea.
my God, Amy,
No idea.
yes. Oh my God. You want a revolution? You say you want a revolution. Make people pay quarterlies like businesses. Watch those figures smack themselves into the heads of every taxpayer, and you will have a guaranteed tax revolt, which is again goes to people are essentially stupid. Do you not? Well, the answer is no. We don't see that stuff. Now, why do businesses complain? Because they have to pay quarterlies, and their fingers are on the pulse of all of those numbers because they have to be. Oh, if you went to, oh my God, Amy, if I could hug and kiss you from here, I would. That is the truth. Try running a business, friends,
Right.
and
Well,
see how that goes.
right.
BZ, please report to HR after the program. BZ,
right.
please report to HR after the program.
No, you bring up a good point, and it was a story that I wrote for Town Hall, New York City. You walk down the street, and there are parts of the city now where these open air black market vendors are selling all sorts of prescription drugs, other sort of things, including painkillers and Viagra. They don't have a license. They don't have to pay business taxes. They just get to do this. You go to New York and you try to start a business, you have to jump through hoop after hoop after hoop, cut red tape, just to get your business off the ground. Then you have to pay taxes. You have to pay minimum wage. Ma'am Donnie will come and bitch at you because you're not doing X, Y, Z. We have so incentivized lawlessness, and we have disincentivized doing things the right way, that no wonder people are sour on capitalism. I can go out and throw a table together with some Viagra, make a bunch of money, never have to pay taxes, never get in trouble for it. The smart people are going to do that. Increasingly, the people who try to do things by the book, good people though they may be, law-abiding though they may be, you're kind of being stupid.
Well, like the bodega owner. Can you imagine trying to own a bodega today and make any kind of profit while all of these assholes are lined up in front of them who are not paying the taxes that the bodegas are mandated to pay?
Right. And if you don't, they will shut you down. But if you run an illegal business, well, maybe you'll get in trouble. Maybe you'll get a fine. But if you play the I'm a Muslim, I'm an immigrant, I'm a racial minority card, oh no, never mind. We'll just let you go because we can't possibly hold you accountable. That would be racist.
Because dope has worked so well in Califailure, hasn't it? I worked and lived with an individual whose job was to tax and regulate dope and saw all of this stuff from the inside, with the taxes, with the regulations, with the reporting, with the detail, with the minutia. All the legal dope growers who said, okay, we'll climb on board this for a while and just see how it goes. And 60 to 70% of them, subsequent to about 2 years after, decided, we're going back illegit. The other thing they saw, as I said before, to Idaho and the other states who think, oh, we'll just tap a kidney and we'll tap the big carotid on this and make tons of money. Well, the other thing that occurred is you invited the Mexican cartels into the state. They were always there before, and now they're back big time. So you want to tax and regulate, consequences occur.
Exactly. When you tax something, you get less of it. Why do you think they were so eager to put taxes on junk food, taxes on other things that they like, taxes on gas, taxes on ammo, because when you tax it, you get less of it, and they know that. Taxes on income means you have less income.
Well, there's societal manipulations.
The thing about it is they know this though, because how long, after, the 80s and the 90s did they start pushing for increasing taxes on cigarettes? So they know that increased taxation lowers demand for things, and yet they want to keep pretending that's not the case when you talk about things like income tax. Look, I am like BZ, a little L libertarian. I will flat out, because big L libertarians are knucking futs. However, I will flat out tell you that taxation is theft. I have always thought so. But since I know that there has to be a happy median, here's what I say to all the leftists and everybody else, because there's even folks on our side that say, well, they're not paying their fair share. The easiest way to make sure everybody pays their fair share? Get rid of all the federal tax bullshit. Set up a set federal sales tax. Don't give exemptions. And then whenever you purchase something, you're paying taxes on it. Guess who pays more in taxes for their purchases? Rich people, because they can buy more. Duh.
Right. I just had this conversation with my boyfriend yesterday, though. The problem with simplifying the tax code now is you have an entire lobby of tax accountants, tax attorneys. I know you don't care. I don't care either. They can all be unemployed as far as I'm concerned. But to simplify the tax code means putting them all out of jobs, and they are going to moo and scream and kick all the way.
You know what I will say to those mother truckers, because I'm going to be try to be a little nice too. Same thing they told the coal miners: learn to code, bitch.
Learn to code.
Right.
Get out of my head, Rick. Damn it, Jim.
Scary enough in my own head. Why the hell would I want to be in yours?
Figure out other things, to other lines of work to get into, but we should absolutely simplify the tax code, because it's ridiculous, it's unfair, and it's unsustainable. And we're going to learn, as we did in California with this billionaire tax and New York with this pied-à-terre tax, the wealthy have the means to leave, and they're going to leave and take the money with them.
I said today,
and then that's going to trickle down.
I said today, Mondami's about to California, New York City, because there's going to be a lot of U-Hauls pulling in when they go check their mailbox.
Yep. The for sale signs are going to pop up like chicken pox.
Newsom is screaming, "Don't pass this in November. Don't pass it. I actually am starting to see what I think is coming down the line." They're going to pass it.
Yep. Well, but he was the guy who just said a couple weeks ago he was going to do a billionaire tax like that at the national level if he becomes president of the United States. The guy doesn't stand a chance to become president of the United States, by the way, but he's never met a tax he doesn't like. So
he watched
choke on it, Gavin. Choke on it.
He watched what happened in New York City. He watched what happened in Oregon. And most recently, he watched what happened in Washington. And now he's finally of the opinion, maybe I need change just a little bit.
Only saying that so he can win the candidacy, and then he'll go right back to taxing the rich. And this is the guy, I wrote about this today. Today, he announced that they are spending about $110 million to create 278 new permanent supportive homes for the homeless in California. For those of you that don't want to do the math, that's roughly $395,000 per home. And where is all the other money? Because I'm sorry, it does not take $395,000 to build a small home for a homeless person. And it's going to be just like the train, where billions of dollars have been pissed away. And like, they've been building that thing since before my son was born. My son is now an adult who lives on his own. And that train still isn't running. They did something like this. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure I get this right. There was another one a couple years ago. He announced that they were going to spend $750 million taxpayer dollars on 1,200 tiny homes. That was 3 years ago. How many of those homes do you think have been built?
I'm going to say one.
Not a one.
Wait, not even one? Nice.
Not even one. Not even one.
Nice.
And just running the math real quick, that for a tiny home is $625,000 per home.
Or the public toilet that was created in San Francisco on the Strip, just down from the Transamerica building, so that the homeless could use it. Well, number one, it got broke in about 2 weeks. And number two, it cost $1 million to put a restroom down the street from the financial center in San Francisco. This
Right.
poll also came through. This has worried some people. New Hampshire poll came through. Hey, guess who came out on top at 22% AOC? Butt gig at 21%. I don't get that at all. Mark Kelly, a moron, 9%. Newsom, less than Mark Kelly at 8%. Bernie Sanders at 6%. And Kamala Cami Cackler at 5%. So they're desperate.
I mean, Booty Juice is pulling that high because he's got the gay vote locked. That's what's happening.
He's got the gay vote locked, but he doesn't get a single black vote. Like, he polls at 0% with the black voters.
You know why?
Because he's gay, and
because
because
he's
the
gay and black
because
people hate gay people.
the anti, you want to talk about, like, I don't believe homophobia exists, but the closest thing we have to it is what happens in the black community, and that's fine. They tend to be Christian. They tend to have a very traditional view of what male and female should do, and they don't do the gay thing at all in the black community. But hey, let's run the gay guy. That's like, he's not, well, he says he's not gay. I don't buy it. But Tallarico in Texas, the black voters, the Jasmine Crockett supporters are turning on him to the point where he came out the other day and said, prisons are violence. Oh, by the way, I also support reparations for slavery. The guy could not pander any harder.
You could have just stopped when he came out the other day,
so to speak.
Right.
Brandon Johnson, reparations. Alameda County, $91 million deficit, reparations. Good luck.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
So I found this interesting, and then we'll probably start getting into favorite stories because we're already at top of the hour.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got so many things to talk about.
I saw this again from Town Hall. You'll never guess who's just been outed as a campaign contributor for Abdul El Sayed.
Refresh my memory as to who he is.
He's the Michigan Senate candidate,
the Michigan
Muslim
Senate dude that's basically Antifa wearing a suit.
Was this one that I wrote, or was this something? So this something else. I wrote about him. I wrote about Act Blue with some shady shit.
No, this is from Vespa.
Vespa. I love Vespa.
But yeah, so everybody remember Miss Rachel, the YouTube chick? Yeah.
Yes.
She donated $3,000 to his campaign. So all you parents that like to let your kids watch Miss Rachel, I hope you realize your kids are probably being indoctrinated to be the next Antifa.
She is one of the most vile people in children's entertainment, and I'm glad my children are way beyond her like target demographic, because she would be on the no, you don't get to watch her list, because she is anti-Semitic. She appeared with Zohran Mamdani. Now she's giving money to this creep in Michigan, who, by the way, is also losing black voters by like 46 points or something like that to Haley Stevens. No, she is disgusting and dangerous and should be pulled off whatever streaming platform she's on, because absolutely intolerable. Wow, I didn't know that. All right.
Now, what's worse is realize this woman makes her money from YouTube, and now she's giving it to a fucking terrorist.
Right. A terrorist, a terrorist sympathizer who will bring Sharia law to Michigan. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So I saw something the other day that I thought was funny. So, and I don't know where it was because I only saw the video clip, but it was in one of the areas where, they do the Muslim call to prayer now starting at like 5 a.m. And I'm sure it was somewhere in Britain. But as soon as the Muslim call for prayer started, some dude walked out with bagpipes and just started wailing. I was like, there needs to be more of this.
Yep.
There needs to be more of this.
Yep. And I will say this.
Passive resistance is a thing.
Yep. Absolutely. And a single bagpipe is annoying as hell. I don't get me wrong. I used to work at a college here, and every summer to like bring in extra revenue, we would rent out the dorms to a bagpiper group. So they'd come from like all over the world. Wait, hang on. I know it sounds ridiculous, but
I like it.
They would come and then they would practice because there was some big competition apparently. And they would be out in the courtyards. And I will tell you right now, there is nothing like 200 bagpipers playing Amazing Grace. And because they would practice between the buildings, so it would like echo like in a valley. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But good for them, because the Islamic call to prayer has no place in the United States of America. Islam
no place
has no.
anywhere.
No, well, they can do whatever they want overseas. Knock yourselves out. I don't care. But no, here it absolutely does not. And I said it on Twitter and I will say it again. George W. Bush made a lot of mistakes during his presidency.
Oh
But
my God.
the biggest mistake that man made was not rounding up all the Muslims and deporting them on September 12th, 2001. And I will stand by that. I don't care what people say. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. They should have gone that day, because I'm telling you right now, if that had been a group of Catholic nuns that had driven planes into the trade center, the Catholics would have been sent to Rome the next day. There wouldn't have been this, oh, they're peaceful and Islam means peace and we can't be Islam. No, they would have been gone and they should be gone. And if we don't get rid of them, especially for you women and gays out there, it's going to get real ugly real fast. There was Chowdhury. Her name is Melissa Chowdhury. Let me look it up because I wrote about this in Washington. And she basically said, yeah, gay community, your platform is not on my website because I don't want to offend the Muslims. But don't worry, your rights are safe with me. Bullshit. Because if she's not going to even put where she stands on the gay community on her website, what do you think she's going to do when a vote comes up about gay issues? The Muslims are going to bitch and she's going to vote against you.
Well, George Bush, you brought up George Bush. He was fundamentally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy Curtis is fundamentally correct.
Mm-hmm.
George Bush was wrong. Not all people want freedom. Not all cultures are the same. There are cultures that are better than others, period. I have spoken. Not all people want freedom. Tell me how many people actually want freedom and can have it enabled in the Middle East, and the answer is zero.
Mm-hmm.
None. And when you
Mhm.
predicate an entire campaign or your entire term upon a falsehood, then you get problems. But
Mhm.
see, it's finally taken that long for this shit to roost. And as
Mhm.
I said, listen, cowboys and Indians. Well, and Indians. Well, how long before it becomes commies and muzzies?
Mhm.
Okay, here it is, 9mm at midnight. Shake hands and come out firing. Who will win? And guaranteed, it's a fight. It's a race. Who will win first, commies or muzzies?
The Muslims will win. They are more determined. They are more violent. They believe in their cause more because they have this religious fervor that the commies, some of them have, but not nearly as deeply as the Muslims. And the way you learn and what has changed your views, travel to
Oh
other
my
countries.
God, yes.
Like I got a lot of flack for traveling overseas. Why would you do that? You don't need to leave America. There's plenty to see here. Why would you? Because until you see it with your own eyes, until you experience it, you don't understand. I can tell you all day long what it was like, but you do not understand until you go there and experience for yourself.
Okay, you got to come on the show and talk to me about that.
We absolutely.
Soon.
You let me know when, and I will make it work.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's start favorite child of the week. I don't think Amy's got just one though. So
Oh boy. All right. So I will be nice so we're not here till midnight and pick one. Madison. There was a shooting on the 22nd of a guy. His name is Corey Durrell Ruiz, 38 years old, a rap sheet a mile long, 42 arrests, including for felony charges. He was released from prison in May, and this will not shock any of you, not compliant with the terms of his supervised release. He was seen in Madison trying to break into cars. Police confronted him. He pulled out a giant kitchen knife and stabbed a cop. For that, he was shot in the head 3 times, and he is now dead.
Thank
Nothing
God
of value
for
was
Amy.
lost, but it's Madison. It was a police shooting. It was the second major officer-involved shooting in that city in the last 10 years. So the last time was 2015 with a guy who was probably on drugs attacking people. The cop shot him too. Anyway, Francesca Hong, the leader, the front runner for the Democratic nomination, who is going to win the nomination on August 11th after the primary, Ruiz's body wasn't even room temperature, and she went to social media and said this was an execution. There's no body cam footage because the Madison Common Council, the city council, has repeatedly refused to give the Madison police body cams because they don't want to see the truth of what happened, especially in encounters like this. So I'm sure there's going to be violence tonight, violence over the weekend. It has been simmering for a couple of days now. One of these BLM activists actually took over a press conference with the Madison police
saw
chief.
that.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous and unforgivable. And that police chief should be fired for that alone. That man should have been removed from the room. He was allowed to rant and rave and fight with other BLM activists, which was freaking hysterical. And I won't get into that, but I won't get into that. It's in the piece I wrote for Town Hall about it. Francesca Hong has just disqualified herself from being the next governor of Wisconsin. She was already there because she wants to abolish the police and she wants to abolish prisons. I'm just going to point this out. If Ruiz had been in prison where he belonged for not only the crimes he committed, but then violating the terms of his supervised release, he would still be alive today. But you guys let him out, knowing full well he probably had mental health issues, had a history of violent crime, including attacking cops, and now you're blaming the cops for defending themselves and other people against a guy with a knife.
Realistically speaking, though, has she killed herself?
You mean politically?
Yes.
I think so.
Really?
I think outside that, I don't think that her stunt is going to play well with. I mean, the Dem voters her base will lap it up. She is double digits ahead in the primary race. The Democratic base will lap this up, but she has to compete in a state that Donald Trump won in 2016 and again in 2024 and lost by not that much in 2020. Compare that to Tom Tiffany, the Republican who's going to be the Republican nominee. I mean, he's basically running uncontested, who said we need to have a full and fair investigation into what happened and then justice will be served. That is what a leader looks like. That is how you respond to this. You don't go out there and say this is an execution and gin up anger. Madison Burns tonight, she is already on track to lose the general election, and the Democrats know it because they brought David Crowley back into the race. He's now like polling at like 9%, single digits behind her and Mandela Barnes. They wanted Sarah Rodriguez to be. They do not want her to be the nominee, and this is exactly why. And it is not going to play well with the majority of Wisconsinites who do not want this woman abolishing the police so that guys like Ruiz can go around stabbing us and the cops aren't there to protect us. It's just the reality of it. People do not want these radicals defunding the police, abolishing our prisons, and letting the criminals run loose. If I was brave, and I'm not, I would go to Madison this weekend just to watch the shit show unfold. But I absolutely expect there to be violence this weekend. I absolutely expect that this will not end, and it'll be fomented by Francesca Hong.
Okay. I'll watch. Well, it's Friday night. I'll watch this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we went to.
This is why I kept telling you shouldn't say you hope there's no breaking news, though. Because, yeah.
Right. Well, that's true. And now I just metaphorically shot myself in the foot. No, but we went to South Central Wisconsin for our honeymoon. And this was 21 years ago now. We went to Madison, but that night it was it was around Halloween. So that was going to be like the big Halloween party. And even back then, stuff got a little wild and a little violent during the Halloween party. So we made sure to leave before the sunset because that's how Madison is on a good night. When there isn't like racial and political tensions fomenting underneath the surface. So yeah, absolutely unforgivable for Francesca Hong to come out and say that irresponsible, ill-suited to be a leader. And while I don't want there to be violence, she better pray and hope there isn't, because her campaign is over before it even starts, if that's the case. And all Tom Tiffany has to do is go out there and condemn the violence, lay out his plan for law enforcement, and he will sweep up the voters that are horrified by this.
Well, let's hope so.
We'll see tonight.
And it's a long weekend. There's supposed to be a farmer's market this weekend. There are always events in Madison. There is going to be no peace, and all it's going to take is for one visitor to pop off and say something to these protesters, and then it's on like Donkey Kong.
Wisconsin, kids. Wisconsin.
Hello,
Right.
Wisconsin. Oh, wait, sorry.
Right. We are a purple state, but the pockets that are blue, and they are crazy. And Madison is the lead. Like Madison on par with San Francisco, like those other or Portland. Like Madison is up there in
Really?
terms of oh, absolutely,
Really?
absolutely. But it's so small, and because people don't know where Wisconsin is, people don't know where Milwaukee is. Like when we were in Egypt, and people asked where I came from, I would say Chicago because I'd say Milwaukee, and they'd look at me like I was speaking Klingon. But Chicago, they knew. So
Click, chuck, chung, cook.
5,000 Calicams. Oh wait, sorry. Anyway,
so
all right.
that's my
BZ, what do you got
story of
for
the
us?
week. But yeah.
How many Quatlus for the author?
What you got for us, BZ? What's your favorite thing you've talked about this week?
Oh my God. This went completely under the radar from everyone. And I said this before, certain personnel open a door and then they shouldn't be shocked because they opened it when other people walk through. Okay, so the wall is broken, a door is open, and precedent was set. We don't have to listen to any judges anymore. We can do like we wish. That door was opened. People should most definitely walk through it. I've had two people on my show. One was Stephen Hall, who everyone knows here is an attorney, highly accomplished, highly intelligent. I posed a question to him. Then 2 weeks ago, I had a true constitutional con law professor, Dr. Michael Jones, on my show, who taught con law. And I posed to both of them, what is it that gives the right to any one, pick one, of the 94 district courts that gives them the ability to make a ruling or issue an opinion that holds throughout the rest of the United States? And none of them could say it. The only thing that they could say was, well, it shouldn't be done, it can't be done, but it's done every day. So it's kind of sort of a thing, if you will. Okay, so the 18th or 17th, Justice Todd Edens, who's a massive leftist Supreme Court justice in Hawaii, said Hawaii is going to defy a high court. It's going to defy SCOTUS. Okay, cool. Door opened, precedent set. Everyone needs to walk through that door. And what I mean by that is if someone sets an opinion that you don't like, they're going to defy it. Why don't we defy it? Those federal courts, pick one of them out of 94 that are all across the United States, issue opinions that blanket cover the entire nation. And that's wrong. There is no precedent for that except that which is created. Now Hawaii has said the quiet part out loud. I will not hold. So, well, it's like sanctuary cities, states, counties. Well, okay, like a Chinese menu, I'll take one from column A, one from column B, one from column C, and just do whatever the hell I want and order whatever the hell I want. This is precedent, and we need to start pushing back. It's time to start ignoring federal opinions, because if the feds can ignore themselves, why can't we? Okay, I'm done.
You sure you're done? You absolutely sure?
I'm
sure.
Pretty sure.
Okay, just checking. All right, so I actually have a couple. Nothing that I've written about because I actually I had been writing a little bit lately, but under my own banners, but not really anything this week because I was still feeling kind of crappy at the beginning of the week. I feel really good today, so I'm afraid I'm about to jinx myself because I've said it more than once. However, a couple of stories that have hit my radar that I thought were interesting. So there's a little known thing about the stuff with Judge Boasberg that nobody talks about. So when he was doing these immigration hearings, he kept telling federal prosecutors, there's this thing called immigration removal court. You should probably be using it. And so they have, and now he's mad at them for doing what he said. And so are a lot of leftists. So I thought that was interesting. So there's that. And then my other one was, and this broke end of last week, I think, because we talked about it on Tuesday. the whole, and I knew this was coming. The Tate brothers, or as I call them, the Taint brothers, have been arrested and are now being held in a jail somewhere. I'm not even gonna. I don't know where. I'm not gonna say where, but their attorney has been making some rather absurd claims. According to the attorney, Andrew Taint is saying that he's being held in solitary confinement, being denied food, and his cellmate next door is a cannibal. Be ashamed if somebody let the cannibal in.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that, but yeah. Like just leave the cell door open one night. Oops. Our bad.
You're
Sorry.
looking mighty tasty, Tate.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna say this: if you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime.
Right? So
I mean,
here's the
that-
thing. Sorry, I don't mean to step on you.
No,
Then
no,
I'll let
no,
you
go ahead.
finish. But I was gonna say the thing that bothers me about this, it's not that he's a douche, because he is. It's not that he's basically been portraying himself as some sort of man's man for years now and being absolutely retarded in the aspects of it. It's some of the behind the scenes stuff that I figured out. Like some of the money shots are with the prop money that you can buy on Amazon that I've seen all over his postings. Some of the big mansion shots, he used Airbnb to rent a place, then took a bunch of shots standing out in front of it. And that's rather common with these social media influencers. But the thing that pisses me off about all of this is it's not even just how badly he treats women and everything else, because nobody, because once they made it big and they changed their name from hustlers to whatever the hell they call it now, before they did all that, they got their money by putting up cam sites. So for one. But
Yeah.
then when all the warrants and stuff got served, they found kitty porn, allegedly.
This is my shocked face.
So yeah, I have issues with that. So yeah, it would be a shame if somebody just, in the middle of the night let the cannibal in for a second. I'm just kidding.
His name is Bob.
I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Bob Dahmer.
Right.
Nice.
Jeff was his cousin.
Yeah. Anyway, so sorry, Amy. I didn't mean to
No,
step
it's
on
fine.
you.
I was just going to point out that the Tate brothers are absolute troglodytes, and putting them in prison for a long, long time is a win for women and a win for humanity. And nothing of value will be lost.
So speaking of them one more time, then I'll move on to my other one. Did you guys see the still shot of what he was wearing when they arrested him?
Yes, it looks like his clothes got shrunk in the dryer. Absolutely.
I was going to say, was it some black chick, silk pajamas?
Close.
Well, so I know some folks had some fun with AI with it, because in one of the shots I saw, he was wearing a button-down white shirt and somebody made it purple or something. But he was wearing what looked like capris, either that or women's jeans. I don't know which one.
Culottes?
Yeah, kind of. But
no, too tight to be culottes.
And then some weird ass shoes. And then somebody put out an image of him standing next to Blanche from Golden Girls and asked who wore it better. I about
Blanche.
died.
Blanche.
But yeah.
Hands down, Blanche. The Golden Girls were the shit. I love them.
Hands down, funny moment about Golden Girls that kind of flew under everybody's radar till years later was how Blanche was supposedly the big slut of the group. She never killed anybody during sex, though. So I think that trophy actually goes to Rose, who actually had somebody die of a heart attack while in flagrante.
That's right. I remember that. And
so yeah,
they were supposed to be switched anyway. It was Betty White was supposed to be Blanche, and Rue McClanahan. I'm going to butcher that. I'm sorry. I should know her name.
No, you got it right.
Was supposed to be Rose, and then they switched, which was.
And then they did the table reads, and they were like, "Yeah, no, this works better the other way."
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny how often that happens, because Tasha Yar was actually supposed to be the counselor on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and
didn't know that.
Sirtis was supposed to be the security officer, and then Roddenberry saw them both as like, "Nope, the blonde gets to be the security chief." But anyway,
the blonde always wins.
So yeah, I guess that was my two stories. So the Taint brothers and the other one. So, Amy, where can folks find you so we can get out of here? Because I still haven't had lunch yet.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis, over at Town Hall writing under Amy Curtis. And if you go to Amazon, you can get my book, gaslight how the Democratic Party lost its mind to radical
There's a-
leftism.
There's a
And-
QR code on the screen right now.
Thank you. And abuses
Hey.
voters in the process. If you go and search Amy Curtis and Gaslight, it should pop up because it's got that long subtitle. But please go buy my book. And if you are a publisher, a publisher, my DMs are open. Contact me. I really want to write another book. So
I'll make you a fancier QR code before next week. I realized I forgot again, so I was scrambling to get one done real quick, which is why it's just a plain one hiding in the corner.
it's beautiful. Better than I could do. So I appreciate that. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I will be back again next week as I love this. And maybe we can talk off air at some point about me doing my own thing every once in a while.
Because
I've got so much to say.
Somebody's only been trying to convince you of getting back into this for like 5 years now.
Yeah, I know. I need to get back into it. I do miss podcasting tremendously.
Amy, next week.
Not gonna say who,
Amy.
but somebody.
Next week?
Amy,
What day next week?
Tuesday or Thursday, whatever is convenient for you.
Let me look at my calendar and I'll get back to you on that one. All right.
Okay, please. Yes.
Sounds good.
All right. And BZ, where can folks find you, sir?
I'm conciliatory. I'm huggable. Everyone loves me. I'm not a negative person. I love people. I especially love dogs. And if you like all those things wrapped up in one fat ancient guy, go to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, and also on X and Twitch. And most importantly, for people here, simulcast arrested on KLRN, courtesy of Rick Robinson. I am a conservative Sherpa, or so I allege. Thanks for having me on the show, sir.
I'm a conservative Slurpee. Oh wait, never mind. I don't even know what I was trying to say there. All right, so we're gonna get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. There will likely be a he said, she said. I know I announced one last week, but I jinxed myself last week and started feeling kind of after dinner, and then Aggie got roped into like helping a friend plan an anniversary dinner, so we punted. But I think we're doing one this week. I have no idea what we're talking about yet, though. But we're gonna get out of here so I can grab some lunch and then get on the text machine with her and find out what we're gonna talk about.
3:30, no lunch.
Yeah, dude, it's been a day. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. Good to
Bye,
see you,
everybody.
Amy.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you for hanging out with us. And Elon Musk, patch your shit, bro. Say goodnight, Gracie.